Oh yes, welcome back to our Star Trek Adventure stream. And it has been a long time since we were all here together. I think the last time we were doing this campaign, which Stars was very excited to kick off and then we delayed for about 4 months, was the Enterprise campaign. So welcome everyone that's watching. This is the second part of our Enterprise campaign, which is GM'd by the wonderful Stars. And I believe you're going to give us a bit of a recap because I think we've all mostly forgotten what's happening, haven't we?
Yeah, this is one of those instances where don't worry if you're tuning in for the first time. Don't worry, we probably know about as much of the adventure as you do.
Yes. Yeah, sorry. So yes, we are, for anyone who hasn't watched it, there is part one, but we will be doing a recap, and I think for the benefit of us and the audience, you guys watching, they'll be doing it. If you're interested, come and chat over in the Discord about it as well. We have a lot of fun with that. We've got a few new triggers as well, but we won't be doing those. Saving those for Wednesday as well. But
we'll be generating a few new triggers tonight, actually.
Yeah, we will, yes. If it's anything like, hang on, where is it? Anything like this, which was a feature that happened on last times SDA.
Everyone's watching to see what you will do.
And I'm going to play that every 5 seconds.
That's like the fourth time I've heard that today.
You got to make up for lost time, obviously.
Okay, shall we go round the room and tell everyone who we're playing? We'll go on in the order we've got on the screen. So, Otto, who are you playing?
Most boring first. Ensign Travis Mayweather, part-time stripper, half Greek dog, orange Cheeto-stained dog.
Yes. I am playing Dr. Phlox, Chief Medical Officer of the Enterprise. Eels are ready to go. T'Chai, who are you playing?
I'm playing Lieutenant Commander Malcolm Reed, sir. Security Officer. Chief Tactical Officer of the Enterprise. Sir!
Following that
You just
performance,
behind you when you say stuff like that.
I am playing Vulcan Extraordinaire, T'Pol.
And below me,
No, thank you.
I'm Commander Shran of the Andorian Empire. Pigskin.
Everyone's so in character, I love it.
yeah. Stars, take us away. What do we miss?
Alright, so the year is 2155. The ship is the NX-01 Enterprise, obviously. And the name of the game is Murder. Called to investigate the mysterious death of Earth Starfleet Dr. Ricardo Lee on the planet Kalmar, Captain Archer's crew has discovered a first contact observation mission that has skirted the rules and seemingly paid the price for doing so. Lieutenant Lee, acting under the cover identity of Rakelly, or R. Kelly, as he otherwise has become known, was on site during the test of a gravity field generating device that could be the first step toward Kalmari interstellar travel. A test that soon turned fatal when the device seemingly malfunctioned and crushed both the lieutenant and 2 scientists, Dr. Rats Kortar, the inventor of the device, and his assistant, Loat Imarin. When the Enterprise's away team, composed of Commander T'Pol, Dr. Phlox, Commander Shran, Lieutenant Malcolm Reed, and Ensign Travis Mayweather investigated further, however, they soon found themselves spiraling further into trouble and possible cultural contamination. They were caught attempting to access the crime scene by a Kalmari police detective, Inspector Dory Lanix, who seemed to have rumbled their imperfect impersonations of the planet's natives. But thankfully, she appears more interested in solving the case than exposing them as aliens. And a good thing for them too, since scans of the crime scene have come to one conclusion: that there was not enough genetic material in the wreckage or room of the accident to confirm that Lee died there, raising the possibility that he may be alive, and in fact, not just alive, but capable of causing untold cultural contamination if he were to be discovered. I put way too many C words in that sentence. I was just asking for that. Or a far worse possibility, that for some reason Lee killed the 2 doctors and has now fled out into the city. With the help of Ensign Mayweather, who pulled Lanix aside, made the calculated gamble of confirming her suspicions that the away team are not of her planet as a gesture of trust, and the reasoned arguments of the rest of the team, Lanix is now willing to give them access to all the information at her disposal so that they may better solve the crime. But who will they wish to investigate first? The edgy director of the Research Institute, Khan Maklet, who seems eager to make it all go away? Grad student Menny Lemon, mentored by Dr. Kortar, but curiously ambivalent in her grief at his passing? Dr. Cypher Jessen, the other leading figure in gravity technology who would seemingly stand to benefit most from the passing of her rival. Or perhaps the unthinkable. One of the observation team on the planet, stationed by my Starfleet and the Vulcan Science Directorate. That is for our players to determine. So, that's sort of the broad strokes. You guys spent a lot of time breaking into a lab, as I recall. But because it has been roughly 4 or 5 months, if there are any details that are unclear, if there are characters that you wish to brush up on, absolutely ask. Do not be afraid. I will probably have to consult my notes as well. It's been a while.
What were the two scientists that were with Ricardo Lee? What were their names again? And did we confirm that? Because we confirmed that there wasn't enough stuff in there for Lee to have died. Did we confirm there was enough for the two scientists? Did we confirm their bodies? I can't remember.
Yes, those two are confirmed dead. So Dr.
Dead.
Rex Kortar, the inventor of the gravity field device, and his assistant Loat Imran.
So they're dead and gone. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and they are 2 native scientists. They are both Kalmuri who are experimenting gravity field technology.
Cool.
Now, when we last left off, you guys were in a interrogation room in the sort of local precinct of the Kalmuri capital, where near the research institute where the incident took place. Lanix is you guys all kind of pitched in to convince her that, because she comes across to you guys as someone who's very much interested in the truth, but her own version of the truth, where she wants to know the answer to the puzzle. She doesn't really care that you're aliens. She cares that you have pieces of the puzzle that she can't find. That's more her focus. She's focused on the crime. And you all kind of pitched in with different sort of approaches to win her over by appealing to her sense of reason, appealing to her as person to person. And she's, it's a tentative alliance, but for the moment, she's on your side.
Cool. Sorry, someone's just requested that I type out everyone's names who's playing who, so I'm just going to quickly do that whilst you guys carry on with that.
Go for it. So,
we no longer have a car because Mayweather wrecked it, right?
Oh, that's right, yes.
No, I thought we parked outside.
Parked it?
God.
We didn't. I couldn't.
The parking Mayweather?
There's no way I
sworn.
What does it mean, exact change? Yeah, and for context, so yeah, the observation team is composed of, I believe, 4 individuals. There's the head of the observation team, Dr. Dagur, who was less than friendly towards you. There was Tazine, who is another member of the Vulcan Science Directorate. And there were 2 human scientists who were essentially assigned to do engineering work and basically backup anthropological work. And then obviously the missing Dr. Lee.
Probably one of the characters without a name is the culprit. That's what I'm going with.
Did I really do that to you? Come on, guys. Come on.
The one on the left.
Ensign Ricky.
The one on the left. It's Ensign Ricky. Oh dear. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So, do you want to go over more details of the incident to refresh yourselves, or do you kind of want to just jump straight into interrogations? Because Lanix is willing to, essentially allow you to observe and comment and interject with questions while she is interrogating the main sort of people who are of interest, as it were.
Yeah,
was a little...
Sorry, go on.
Oh,
go on.
go ahead.
No, you first.
I was a little unclear on the
Red alarm!
fail-safe.
Red alarm!
Sorry. Thank you for following me, Creston 14. Go on. There we go.
A failsafe?
I was a little unclear on the fail-safe device that was in the what do you call it?
Okay, yes.
Gravity.
Yeah, so it's a gravity torus, essentially like it's imprecise, but it's basically a donut shape, and that's what is creating the gravity field that is the focus of these experiments. I believe, yeah, there were details about that I don't think you got because you decided to break into the lab.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which was Obviously, a flawless decision on our part.
I mean, it certainly was fun.
But we watched like a video of the accident, right? I think the investigator might have had it, or I have notes that
Yes.
we watched some footage of the accident.
I think you might have had footage from the observation team, actually, not from
Okay.
the detective. Let me see. Can you take in terms of let's see. So as
You're
far as
muted,
you know,
Spock.
yes, Spocky, if you, I think he wants to be muted.
Oh, okay.
God's sakes, no, I wasn't. I was trying to say something.
Oh dear.
Now I wish to be muted.
By the way, the
might be an idea
stream
to ask.
starts in about 10 minutes, guys.
Yeah.
So, grab a drink.
Great.
I was going to ask, is it worth asking what evidence they have got so far as a way of acquainting ourselves with the scenario?
Yes.
Yeah, so essentially the details are, I don't believe there's any camera footage. If there is, I would have to look back at that and work out what it was. Okay, yeah, so there were no cameras in the lab because that would not have been useful for the gravitational, mechanical, and electromagnetic readings they were taking, and the camera signals could have interfered with sensitive EM detectors. I believe you might have been able to tap into possibly Research Institute cameras. Maybe that's what it was. Like of the building around it, not necessarily in the lab itself. And you were maybe tracking people going in and out of the lab, I think maybe. But I believe there were potentially gaps in that footage.
Mm.
Let's see. I could just start reading through the notes again. But essentially, the details seem to be this: Lee and the two scientists were in the lab, and whatever reason, foul play, accidental, whatever, the torus activated and created such an intense gravitational field that all three of them were crushed, or at least two of them were crushed to death. And there are certain situational details that are a bit odd, such as a wreckage pile with a console encrusted with brown stains of dried blood.
Right, yes.
Which is where one of them got crushed against it because they were trying to hold on. Essentially, there was an odd slab of wrecked equipment. It seems
We only saw this from the outside because I think I remember rightly. Wasn't I? Didn't I ask to scan it and you didn't let me because we were trying to get in. That's why we were trying to get into the lab so we could scan the blood or something like that.
Yeah, you were very insistent on getting inside the lab itself because you wanted to do an inception of the scene because you wanted to have a look at the wreckage. So the actual bodies that you've got to deal with here is basically a massive chunk of metal and genetic material, to put it nicely. Some of it was still present at the lab just because of the difficulty of moving it. Some of it has been moved to the police precinct. That's how that's how Lanix worked out that there was an alien element to this, because she had access to some of Lee's genetic material that was in the wreckage they got.
Thank you to Evans of Wales for being our archivist in the chat. He's found out a bit about the other. We found out a bit about the other researchers' device, and there was a transporter trace video we found out about apparently.
Okay.
Believe
him. Evans of Wales is a upstanding individual, I believe.
Red alarm! Red alarm! Red alarm!
Thank you, Galaxy Star Queen, for following.
I'm also told by my archivist, Best Efforts, there was a camera outside the door of the lab, but not inside.
Okay.
So if memory serves, wasn't there some kind of override device that was triggered to turn off the gravity well?
Yes, there was meant to be a relatively simple, physically activated failsafe on the console.
And so that was inside the same room as the gravity device, yes?
Yes.
So we don't know who triggered it, but we do know it killed 2 of the 3 people in the room, and 1 is missing.
Yes, so the Taurus had a failsafe that was tested and proven to be working at the start of the session. That would have been standard practice as a scientific experiment. Telemetry gathered from the scene of the accident shows that it failed to activate after that point. And the failsafe is a physical switch triggered by high gravity, and the only way to prevent it activating would have been to block it directly sometime after the lab was sealed for the experiment. So it could
Block
only
it
have been an
how?
accident.
Block it how? Like a lockout code, or physically jam the machinery, or what?
Oh, in terms of like sealing the door.
No, to the
Turn off
override
the
device
failsafe.
and shut it down. Yeah.
I think it would have actually been like physically jamming it and stopping it from closing a
Okay.
circuit, as it were. And the sort of prevailing logic at the scene, and the reason why Lanix is a little bit flummoxed and glad that there is an alien element to this, is because this looks like a really classic locked door mystery, and it should be an accident because no one has the means to do this on purpose and survive with Calmuri technology.
Have we just walked into a Jonathan Creek episode?
little bit.
Is Alan Davies going to come around the corner and just work it all out?
Or R. Kelly cloned himself and put the clone in there.
Oh yes, that was one of our.
It's
favourites,
entirely
wasn't it?
possible.
Yes.
So,
Like,
hold on,
it's
Oh.
wishful thinking.
what background information do we have on Ricardo Lee and the two that died there? Was there any pre-existing maliciousness?
So in terms of Ricardo Lee, you got the impression from the observation team that Dr. DeGur, who's the leader of the team, and R. Kelly, were not on the greatest of terms, because Ricardo wanted to observe physically and in sort of like the spirit of immersion anthropology, like he wanted to be physically present to watch it and drink in the sensation, as it were. Whereas DeGur wanted them to sort of like stay out of it and just do it by the book, essentially. As for the other two, you don't know very much because you decided to have Shran stall that guy for about half an hour instead of talking to him about the people involved.
How did I stall him? I can't even remember.
You were just very angry.
Screaming, yeah. It was very
Oh my
impressive.
gosh.
That's because we were trying to break into the lab instead of
Yeah.
I remember now. That was rubbish.
Hey, it worked.
harm not.
You did it.
Our group motto is harm not charm. That's how we're going to get through every.
Still forgetting about that time you played Wolf trying to attack that scientist and she just like slapped you back.
That was a good one.
Okay, so so the investigator has essentially let us go on our own recognizance. She's with us, and we're going back to the scene of the crime now to investigate further.
It's like,
Correct?
I'm watching you.
Well, she's actually.
Or she's letting us sit on her interrogation of the people of interest and where we can
Oh, okay.
interject with any relevant stuff that we know.
She has gathered the three sort of main suspects. So there's Jezen, the rival scientist. There is Maclet, the research director, and then there is.
Picked a different name.
I didn't pick the names. This is a pre-written adventure. I'm leaving.
All right.
And then there's Meni Nilorn, who is the grad student who was working with Kortar.
Mm.
And this
So
was,
all these.
Oh, she was working
sorry,
with
this
Corta.
was Jezen's experiment, right?
Sorry,
I
this
don't.
was whose experiment?
Jezen.
No, so this was Kortar's experiment. Jezen's experiment is actually still present in the room.
That's the gravity plating, the big slab.
Yeah, but it doesn't work.
Okay.
And everyone is very annoyed at Jezen because it doesn't work.
Or does it?
Exactly.
I'm seeing plenty of red herrings here. It's lovely.
Oh, it's so annoying, but also great.
But yeah, Lanix has gathered these three because they are the three who were confirmed to be in or around the Institute at the time of the accident, and they would have had access to the lab before and after it. So, yeah.
This should
I
have been
would like to.
Sorry, this should have been a big goodbye thing, really. We should all be playing Dixon Hill and
Yeah.
Nicky the Nose. Come on.
Well, I'm happy to hang around and help with the interrogations because that's what Shan's good at.
Shouting at people!
Have we
Tell
got
us the
access?
truth.
So do we have access to the lab now? Have we actually got? Can we get in there?
Yes, Lanix will
Okay.
grant you access to that. That being said, she would be a bit annoyed at you if she gathered together all the suspects and did that. But you can absolutely
Well, I
go
was
and
thinking of
do a
splitting
further
up. I was
inspection of
thinking
the
of
lab.
splitting up.
Can
'cause
I
was
drive us
thinking-
there?
I was thinking if you want Shran, Reed, maybe Mayweather to do the interrogations, me and T'Pol will go and do some investigating in the lab, have a look around there, maybe.
No, I'm determined now to get through this whole campaign without ever talking to these people.
That's the T'Pol way. She does abhor social contact. You're playing true to your character.
All right.
So, do you want to split the party? Like, I'm happy to do that. Like, this is not like D&D. You can split the party, and there are very few repercussions for it.
So, if I remember rightly, when we were apprehended at the lab and brought to be interrogated, Lanix was present, right?
She was the one who apprehended you, yeah.
Right, and some security guards. So, I'd like to ask Investigator Lanix if she has any physical or digital evidence that she took from the scene when she brought us to the precinct, or if everything is still left intact at the scene of the crime.
Oh, I see what you mean. So the only thing that would have been moved from the scene that would have been disturbed, because this is only like a day or so late, like this is a relatively recent accident. The only thing that has been physically moved from the lab to the precinct and taken for a forensic analysis is part of the wreckage that contains the corpses of Imran and Kortar, and like essentially a lot of lab debris, and also parts of Lee's genetic material. So that essentially, that's going to tell you about the same as what is in the lab, but they were most interested in poking around at that first. They've left the lab relatively untouched. Until you guys,
I feel like our strengths are suited to splitting up. If T'Pol wants to go back with someone else and investigate scientifically, and Shran can stay with someone and yell at the detainees, maybe that would be the best way.
Yep, that
I think
checks
that
out.
does make a degree of sense. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So,
I tell you
Fox,
what,
do you wish to?
Let's make them team captains, and they can pick their team as we split up. So Shran and T'Pol,
who likes each other now?
you draft. Reminder that you need someone to drive you back to the scene of the crime.
This is the end game.
I'm picking Reed. We're going to a physical place. He's going to know if there was security breaches or.
Yes, sir.
You're going to a physical place with Reed. Okay.
I'm going to pick Mayweather just because.
Nobody wants Phlox.
Yes.
Well, Flox interrogation.
That's me.
Flox would be great on the CS team.
Okay, I'll come science team.
Cool.
Flox the interrogator. What are you going to puff up at him? Come on, bro.
I mean, Mirror Fox is pretty good at it.
That's true.
I haven't seen that episode.
What?
It's like from 2005, my guy. It's,
No, I don't mind. I
Seen
don't
it.
mind being spoiled. But I just haven't seen it yet. It's on my list. Oh, I'm watching it with my... Yeah, anyway, never mind.
It's all good. The only fake fan is here. I haven't sized up Brexton. It's fine.
Okay, who's going first?
I think, you know what, it might help for the context of the interrogations if we maybe do the science visit first, so that you can go over the scene and pick up some more like fine details. That I think might be an idea. Are you guys okay with that? And incidentally, you guys are still able to use your communicators. You can still talk and converse. I'm not going to be like, oh, you have to be in the same room to this. You can talk freely and interject if you guys have any observations.
Is that not alien technology at this point, though? We'll need to be subtle about to use it, because otherwise they'll be like,
be subtle about it.
Yeah.
You can probably use it in front of Lanix, and she'll be like a bit, and she'll probably be like really interested, but she's not going to knock on you, even though she is a knock.
Just send her a message sent from my communicator.
So my Apple communicator.
Because this advanced civilization with gravity Taurus technology wouldn't possibly.
Oh, that's true.
How advanced?
Is that wireless communication? She's just carrying around a phone.
Society. They would have phones, right?
They do phones. They do have phones.
Okay.
But they don't. They're not a warp capable species yet. This was what they were working towards, right?
Yeah, this is one of the first steps towards warp technology. Is you need gravity plating so that you can have starships. It's one of the essential sort of things. It's used in, among other things, tractor beams, transporters, gravity plating, obviously, and all kinds of degrees of.
Can I? Because we haven't explained to the audience haven't followed. These guys are pretty much big dogs, aren't they? They're essentially bipedal dogs, golden fur, brown
people,
skin.
yes.
And I'm just thinking, was the guy that invented the gravity plate and the guy that's pioneering the spaceship stuff? His name's not Elon Husky, is it?
Terrible.
No.
Okay, you guys can leave the stream now. That's as good as it's going to get.
Yeah. It's not Basil Brush either. No.
All right,
sorry.
Let's do some science.
All right. So who's gonna drive you? Or are you gonna walk?
Do they drive on the right or the left?
The driver on the left.
So Reed.
Very well, fine.
Requirements of the service.
Time for the first roll of the evening, then. Let's see how this goes.
Dice.
Now, how familiar would Reed be? He was more of a naval guy, wasn't he? He was going to join the.
No, but I forswore my family's naval tradition for.
Yeah, it's gonna stand you in real good stead when you're trying to automate a locomotive. All right. Give me a control plus con check, difficulty 3.
Ooh,
3.
oof.
I mean, unless Reed wants to barter with me as to how easy it is to drive a car.
For
How
driving.
far? Okay, how far away is this place?
It's only like 15, 20 minutes.
By car or walking?
Plus con.
By car, by walking, it'd be more like half an hour. Because it's still a city centre, it's pretty heavily urbanised.
Can someone assist me by backseat driving?
Yes, they can!
Or does that add an obstacle?
That really sounds like a job for Phlox. That's very
Okay.
Oh, I need this. I need Flock's backseat driving.
Yeah,
You need to put it into drive, Lieutenant.
Move the stick like that. Incidentally, T'Pol can assist as well if she is so inclined.
Sure.
What was the skills?
So it is control plus con.
Control con. Okay.
And it's difficulty
I got
3.
11.
Now here's the thing. The only person who has to use those skills specifically is the person who is doing the primary role. So that would be Reed.
Okay.
He has to use control plus con. Now, if you two can come up with a justification as to why you are using different skills,
Yes.
you can roll something different on your dice.
I could roll insight and con because I'm a backseat driver. I am giving, advice and insight. I'm saying you don't want to be at those low revs. Really push the accelerator. Come on.
Push it past the red line now.
Aren't you a doctor?
The doctor in drag. No, that sounds wrong. A doctor in drag racing. No, right. Moving on.
Should I use a bit of
The need for speed.
Must have been your lifelong ambition.
Damn it. It's a perfect storm of references.
Insight and con I can do.
Okay, so you can go. So the way this works is, Reed, you get 2 dice. Phlox and T'Pol get 1 dice because they are assisting. Now, Commander T'Pol, do you wish to roll control plus con as well, or do you have a justification as to using a different roll?
I think I would like to roll reason and command. Because
I'll allow that.
Yeah. Cool, thanks.
Okay. And you guys remember how to get your target numbers and everything, yeah?
Yeah.
So for those who are this is the first time watching or who have forgotten because it's been so damn long, you add your attribute and your discipline together to get your target number. Any roll that goes below that number counts as a success. Anything that hits a 20 is a complication.
And a 1 is a crit, which is two successes.
Yes,
okay.
that's a good thing to mention.
Insight and con, mine is 13, and I got a 6. So I got a success.
Okay.
Before we start, would it be appropriate to use a point of momentum to drive
Well, there's 4
the
of
car?
us, so I think we might be alright. We've got 4 dice on the line here already.
Okay.
Yeah, but
we are
it's
just driving
difficulty
a car.
3.
What's the worst
Hey.
happen?
That's much harder than you think it is, all right?
The truth comes out.
It's not as though we haven't crashed the vehicle before or anything, but yes, let's go.
On the
I rolled my
advice of
die
your
and I failed.
doctor.
Okay, so T'Pol is not being very helpful with her instructions.
Completely backfired.
Let's see. I rolled a 7 and a 12, so 2 successes.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, skin of your teeth. There's a few awkward, a few awkward chunks in the gearbox is protesting.
He's got a Doctor Strange portal there.
Yeah, a little bit. I feel like this is very appropriate. They would spend about 20 minutes like dicking around in a car in Enterprise.
Fox on the local radio.
By the way, for viewers at home, we're now 31 minutes into the stream and we've completed our first action. So go us.
Damn right. That's how you know it's a Star Trek stream.
I think Reed should be like talking to T'Pol and just looking at her the whole time. Like I think that's the most accurate for a TV show.
So, Commander, do you squat a lot? Do you, in the gym?
No, that's Archer. What are you doing?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I notice your flat thighs are looking a little flaccid. You could do with a little toning up, Commander.
I'm missing some reference.
Tips.
Oh man, I'm demoting you guys as soon as this campaign is over.
I'm non-commissioned.
You
I'm
tried.
sending you back to the
Same
medical.
here.
Strange freeloading on this whole trip. He doesn't even go here.
I have no clue why I'm here, except there are people I need to argue with.
You know, Mayweather's gonna have to keep Shran from like acting out in like a pre-warp contact situation. This is gonna be amazing.
Oh,
So,
I'm loving it. The whole attitude towards violence, it's really, really refreshing.
all right. So, with a few ruined gearboxes later, you pull in at the research institute, and you all feel as though you've done a reasonably good job. T'Pol, you feel sure
Hold on, he's got to back in to find a parking spot. Give him a second.
Okay, give me a roll to parallel park.
It's a difficulty 5.
Yeah.
Use the camera and the beep beeps. They must have cameras and beep beeps.
Luckily for you, they do have a level of technology on par with the 2030s back on Earth, so they would have the little cameras and the helping reversing.
And the beep beeps.
And the beep beeps.
Stars is like, I'm so tired of your shit. I'm going to make you roll for everything if you don't knock it off.
All prop work requires a roll.
I mean, they might even have a button, like in Peugeots.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Anyway, no, you may not use your focus on explosives. Right. So all of you dismount and get out. It's you do your best to sort of. It's just like an airlock. It's just like riding a bike. It's fine.
One question.
Yes.
So I don't think it's been addressed. Do we walk on all fours or on our hind legs?
Hind legs.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I wouldn't subject you to that. Unless you're into it, but I don't think...
That's the other stream.
Yeah, that's the other one.
If I shout walkies really loudly, is that going to cause a problem? Oh, sorry.
Moving swiftly on, you enter the research institute using the same IDs as before. And you tend to get access to the lab. And first, the guards who are stationed there from the Calmari police do stop you up until they get radioed by Lanix to let you in. And while they are cautioned to, assist, they are told to leave you to some considerable latitude because she doesn't want you being... She wants you to use your busted future technology, and she's more interested in getting that answer than on these bozos walking on you while you're using said future technology. So, you are back at the lab, which you have been to before, yet feels strangely new and as if you've not been here in a while.
The lab. I remember it well.
So, this is the Aphios Research Institute Gravity Experiment Lab. Up above, there's a sort of like a large monitor room through which people could observe gravity experiments in relative safety. And the gravity lab itself is a large octagonal chamber whose floor is about half a story below, so relatively sort of like recessed into the ground. The thick windows of the observation sort of section and their support frames are warped as if some intense force had pulled them toward the center of the lab. There's a large pile of wrecked equipment piled up in the center, most of it seemingly crushed inward or half melted. Underneath it can be glimpsed the crushed remains of a large device in the shape of a thick torus parallel to the floor. Large equipment consoles bolted to the floor and heavy conduits running from floor to ceiling are still in place, but appear to be warped inward, not unlike the window. Leaning against one wall at about a 20-degree angle from vertical is a thick rectangular slab about 3 by 4 meters and half a meter thick. It appears quite heavy. Yes, Wesley, I know. And it's the only loose item in the room that hasn't been pulled into the center. The wreckage pile and one of the massive consoles are encrusted with brown stains of dried blood. And while what remains have been removed as possible, you assume there's still something quite grisly bunched up in there were you to have a look. So, where would you like to begin your deeper investigation? And how would you like to go about it?
Commander?
Gravity Taurus. More like Ford Taurus. Am I right?
Good one, Commander. Lieutenant.
There is no Taurus in the UK.
It's certainly named something else, isn't it?
It's a Mondeo.
Yes.
So much cooler.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to look at everything. I'm super interested in that big piece of gravity plating.
Okay.
But if anybody else has an interest in anything that they want to look at first that might inform our inspection of the gravity plating, I'm all ears.
I think that's the right act.
Cool.
But go ahead, Phlox.
Can we? Sorry, just not to interrupt, but can we keep in touch with each other? So any findings that you have, we have them instantly, so that we can use them in our interrogation type thing.
Absolutely.
It just stops things from saying, "Well, you wouldn't know that thing because they haven't come back yet." It's like, well,
We're
not
streaming
interested
on
in that
Twitch.
kind of
On Twitch.
obfuscation.
You're fine.
Ensign Mayweather to Dr. Phlox. Ensign Mayweather to Dr. Phlox. Are you there?
Flux here.
Yes, I'm looking for someone. Last name Hug and Kiss. First name.
I'm afraid I don't know that crew member. Have they been recently assigned?
No, sir. I've not had a chance to meet the new crew member since I've been back.
I'm going to mute myself for 10 minutes. Please continue.
I was waiting for a mic up joke there, but you didn't go there.
Hello, this is you, Jazz.
Okay, I was going to say, once we've done the gravity plating, I want to have a look at some of the remains of the people and see what I can scan there, but plating first.
Okay, so the heavy rectangular plate was extremely explained to you as being a failed gravity generation experiment of Dr. Cypher Jessens, which was too massive to be easily removed from the lab, so it was just moved off to the side to make room for the Taurus. You get the kind of the impression that it was created in the lab with the intention of probably being a prototype, and therefore it was never really a consideration it would have to be moved. They seem to have put a decent amount of investment into this experiment, and you get the kind of, and judging by sort of like the financial capabilities of the Institute, this would probably have been a bit of a blow that this didn't go through. Like there was, from your understanding of gravity generation technology, which is substantially more advanced, this is probably a significant investment on their part. So what would you like to inspect about? Do you just want to do kind of like a tricorder scan?
Definitely to start off, I think.
Okay, in which case, give me That's going to be a science roll, but what should it be paired with? I think science plus reason makes sense here. And we'll go with a difficulty 3 for this. I think that's fair because you're sort of doing a all over.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Buy a dice.
Oh, I wasn't
Am I-
looking. It's all over you.
Yes, Anson, it's all over me.
Thanks, Otto.
Very helpful. I should also point out you do have focuses in physics and sensors, which
You
would
seem
help
like the
with this.
ideal person.
Yeah, could these other two have tricorders as well, right? Could they help me?
Yes, absolutely. They can assist you with dice.
Beautiful. Love that 2030s model tricorder.
Damn right.
Okay.
Classic 21st century design.
Did you tell me what I'm rolling?
Science plus reason, yes.
Science and reason, great. Okay.
Yes, yes. And we shall scan with you, Commander.
And do you
I'm
need a refresher on how focuses work?
Yes, please.
So focuses basically mean that if you roll a 2, 3, or 4, that is a crit roll, just as if you had rolled a 1, and that means 2 successes from 1 dice.
I think in addition to my friends helping me, I should buy a third die.
I think that's fair.
Let's do that. I'll reduce the momentum. And we both assisting as well.
Yes, please.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll absolutely allow you to
Was that
assist.
reason and science? Was that sorry?
Reason plus science. So unless Reed has a justification as to why he might roll something different, but that's
And what's the
good
range for a crit?
Be just one.
sorry, Shay?
Oh, one.
I was using my expertise in explosives. Perhaps, am I paying attention to the blast, the pattern of the destruction as related to the gravity plating?
No.
Skycapper, were you asking about the range of a crit for when you're applying a focus?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's your discipline.
Yeah.
So 1, 2,
cool.
like 4, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Great.
so normally it's like you have to roll a 1, but if you roll a 2, 3, or 4, that will count as 2 successes. So it expands your crit range.
Then I rolled 1 critical, and that's it.
Okay, I got a success.
Okay, so 2 successes. Okay.
I
Lieutenant Reed.
roll a 5, so it appears
Wow.
to run on some form of electricity.
There you go.
Well, you're not wrong.
It's not wrong. Okay, so we're going to do a sort of like a deep scan of the gravity plating. So there is a degree of biomatter residue on here that is sort of like it would match the rest of the profile. This was definitely in the room when the incident happened. You also get a sort of like an idea of how feasible this technology was, and while you can't say for sure if it does work, they were definitely on the right path. Other species have used this like form of gravity plating to some success in their starships. It's a bit more sort of like unorthodox, but it definitely is a feasible technology. It's not a dead end that would never work. There is the possibility this would work. You can see why they would have put so much money and time and manpower into this, because it is, to your practice side, this looks feasible.
It's dog power, not manpower.
Thank you.
What is? Sorry.
My speciesism like flares up again. It's fine. You were saying?
What's its composition?
I would say mostly. What would it be? That's a question I hadn't thought about. I would say it's probably going to be sort of like a Durasteel composite with a high electronic component mass.
With a sprinkling of uranium on top.
With a, in fact,
Hints of iron.
a chromium finish just for you, Idol.
Unremarkable alloys is always the answer.
So various precious metals, like very low plastic content. Like there would have been like a sort of like a casing, but mostly it's electronic components and metals.
When we scan it, do we detect any kind of radiation or particles coming off of it? Is it magnetic?
Magnetic, no. It is soaked in gravitational residue. That being said, that's not conclusive because the rest of the lab is also soaked in that.
Okay, so that could just be from the
it could just be
experiment.
Like ground radiation, yeah.
Okay.
And it's also worth keeping in mind that this wasn't the first time they had experimented with the torus, and this panel has been here for a while, so it could potentially be from a previous experiment. But you get the impression that the residue is fairly new, it's at least as old as the accident, maybe a little bit older. But you can't be sure. It's a fairly quick decay.
Can we tell if the device has been used recently?
I'm going to say no. You are unable to tell that. Because while this is a familiar technology to you, the specifics of it are different, just as Vulcan technology is different from human in its engineering. But you could potentially ask Dr. Jessen about the specifics and then maybe try and work out from there.
Okay. Can I have a look at give a scan for the bodies, or the remains of what remains are actually in the room of the two scientists, Kortar and Imran?
Imran, yes. So this is sort of this was like the kind of the big reveal of the previous session. So there are. I'm not going to make you roll for this because you've technically already scanned for it, unless you want to roll to confirm it. But I don't.
If it's not going to provide anything new, then no.
No, not really, because you've already done a scan of this area. You did get interrupted before you were able to scan the gravity plating, so that's new information.
Right,
but I believe you did get a chance to scan for the biological residue before you.
Okay, so there's nothing new to come out of. We just know there's where the body. There's nothing. There's no. What I'm thinking about is there any unusual particles or any unusual sensors coming from the bodies that might indicate something that was not part of the original experiment.
So Lanix would actually have more input on this. In that,
interrogation.
Because part of the reason she suspected you is that included in the wreckage was a standard issue Starfleet communicator, which had alloys which were not native to this planet. She was suspicious when you turned up and were claiming to be friends of R. Kelly.
Not something anyone wants to do these days, really.
That's true. It's not. It's less than golden in.
Is there any way I can scan the atmosphere to detect that whether Mr. R. Kelly himself, was where he was positioned in the lab, or any kind of way of noting where he was? Is there any? I'm just trying to think if there's anything I could do to sort of kind of find his whereabouts, because that's my. It's gone from sort of like finding the body to confirming it to going he's gone somewhere. So I'd like to kind of see if there's any trace residue of him, his DNA, that I could try and scan and find out where he went. Maybe somewhere on an exit somewhere, maybe Scarped or something like that. Can I do a scan? Would it be worth me doing a scan for that? Well, I might do a scan anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually,
cool.
I will say that what this is going to be is you're going to be attempting to create a form of DNA forensic reconstruction of the scene, sort of like those crime scene reconstructions where they track things. So I say you'll give that a shot. That being said, it's going to be a relatively complex operation.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. What would that come under as? And I guess you're going to attack it from a sort of like a medical standpoint, yeah?
Yes. I would say so. So I'll probably look to use my focus in genetics.
Okay. I'll absolutely allow that.
Cool.
Go for. You know what? I'll make a compromise. I was going to make a difficulty 3, but I think I could have been a bit harsh on you. We'll go for a difficulty 2, but the other 2 may not assist you.
Ooh, interesting.
They are not medical personnel.
In which case, are we happy if I buy a dice? Are we happy? Yep, cool. I will.
Yep, do it.
Purchase a third dice. So what am I doing? So what 2 skills am I using again? Sorry.
I would say for a forensic reconstruction of this degree, you're going to want to give me medicine.
Yep.
And...
Just looking at my sheet now, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm also trying to think of like what this would come under as, because it's not. Reason would make the most sense because it's a scientific process.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
So that gives me 16 plus so that gives me anything 1 to 5 is a double because I'm using my genetics focus and I've got to get 16 or under. So that's pretty good odds. So rolling 3 dice, we've got a 2, a 4, and a 5. Fucking hell! So
bloody hell!
So I've got 6 momentum. So we've got I've basically topped up our momentum again.
I need to take it more difficult on you, Christ.
So I've given us 4 momentum.
Wouldn't that be 6 successes minus the 2 difficulty for plus 4 momentum?
plus 4, yeah. So we're up to 5 momentum.
Yeah.
So cool. Awesome. Yeah,
nice.
I rock that. I've got the Iron Man scanning. I've got like digital evidence, on the floor. We're looking around it, panning the room around.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Okay, so from what you can tell from your reconstruction, it looks as though Lee and Kortar were closest to the Taurus, and Immerin was up against near one of the heavier consoles, like further away near a railing, right up until he attempted to brace himself, and then was pulled into the wreckage. The other 2 appear to have... In fact, I'll say that. Because you rolled so well, you determined that Lee was in fact not pulled into the wreckage from your reconstruction.
Okay.
And if you are so inclined, you may spend 1 momentum to obtain more information that may be of interest to you.
I think I rather would. What do you think?
I'll pass. I don't want more information.
Let's just go with what we've got.
Fuck off.
No.
Let's just do some blind guessing.
Yeah. Yes. Well, the thing is, I made the point last week. I was just like, well, we know he's not dead, so job done. Let's go. It's just to find out why he died.
No problem.
Yeah, we're done here. If you're happy, I'll spend that. Yeah, I think I made up. So.
Yeah.
So yes, give me.
Okay. So, it's giving me a small bit of information, but I think you'll find it interesting. You obtain minute, unidentifiable, but definite traces of another individual who was in the room.
A 4th person. Interesting.
And that's all I'm going to tell you. That's
okay.
But I feel like for 1 momentum, that's a pretty juicy fact. Now, unless you guys have anything else that's more impressing, I would like to switch over to the interrogation, unless you've got any more questions you want to ask about the lab.
Is it worth it all scanning to see where the force lines, to show that it was completely an implosion into the gravity torus, or is it pretty evident that
it's pretty evident? It would be quite hard to fake it in this degree. And I would say that between the amount of because between your initial scan, your scan of the gravity plating, and now your scan of the actual wreckage through the forensic reconstruction, you've got a pretty solid profile of this room. It looks as though the Taurus was activated from within the room. It was not external malfeasance, as it were.
Okay. So,
if you guys are okay with it, let's switch over to our intrepid heroes, Shran and Travis.
I'm not a hero.
The point of them doing this this setup first was so that we'd have more information. Yes. Okay.
Yes. So you've confirmed, among other things, that there was a 4th individual there.
So while we're on the horn, getting these details from them, I had the brilliant idea to ask them if the laboratory had logs kept of personnel inside the facility at the time, and if they have a list of names.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, that's if you guys want me to just give you the full list.
There must not be anything good in there if you're not going to make us roll for it, so...
Well, this is the kind of information that Lanix would have already checked. So, Director Macklett, Menny Lamorne, Mr. Immerin, with Dr. Immerin, rather, I should give him his proper title, even though he is dead, Dr. Kortar, and Dr. Jessen. They were all present in the facility. You are unsure if they were inside the lab at the time, but you can only assume not.
And Ricardo Lee, correct?
I'm Ricardo Lee. Yes, sorry. Yeah.
So just those 6 people.
Yes, because everyone, when they enter not just the institute but also the lab, would have to present ID or use a card in order to access it. Because the last thing you want to do is just casually open a sealed door and then you're in the middle of a gravity experiment.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to rule out Tagur, Tazine, or any of the other sort of secondary.
That's going to be a lot harder to do because they do have access to transporter technology.
Oh, do they?
They do.
Oh,
Because this is 2155. Yeah, there would be a transporter aboard as part of the observation post because you need to be able to beam like supplies up and down from orbit.
Well, this changes everything.
Any transporter traces when we did our deep scan of the room?
Absolutely no way to tell. That is too saturated with gravimetric interference.
That means yes.
So, Evans of Wales earlier said there's a transporter trace video. Now, I drank too much last night, so I don't remember. Could you remind me what that entailed?
I believe that would have been using the transporter's imaging scanners to try and reconstruct what happened inside the lab. But like how you were trying to get scans of a transporter signature, that would also have been mostly wiped by the gravimetric interference. I believe it mostly would corroborate what you've seen so far.
Ooh. But the dog people don't have transporters, right?
They don't.
Oh, right,
Okay.
right. Sorry, we have them. They don't. I thought you said
we
that
reconstructed
they have them.
that from like secret transporter.
Right.
Yeah, from all the observation posts, because you first visited the observation post to get kind of a general idea and apply your disguises and stuff like that before you went into town to the research institute.
Isn't it convenient that the suspects at the observation post couldn't collect any actionable data via their transporter?
Fascinating.
All right,
Suspicious.
let's interrogate. I'm turning things over to my very honorable Smurf partner in crime here. At the worst possible moment.
Literally uncanny. How do you do it, Otto?
Sorry, I texted one of my blue-skinned underlings to get me a beer.
Ale, Andorian ale.
Yeah. Andorian ale, yeah. It's the wrong colour? Is it the wrong colour?
It's gone off.
It's the wrong colour, isn't it? It's not.
It's fine.
So no, we're listening in on the it's definitely Andorian. To the constable's interrogation, and we're going to pipe up when we see something that's worthwhile.
Yeah, so she's going to sort of like be leading the interrogation, but you guys are essentially in her ear. Like, it would obviously be very, very odd if you guys were in the room with her. That being said, she has an earpiece so that she can be surreptitious about it.
So can I be right outside the door? Because I've got a feeling that I'm going to be
a double pane glass thing, you know,
in the room. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I want to imagine that Travis is behind the double pane glass being like all intense and mysterious, and Sharon is just outside the door waiting to slam it open and be like, "It was you!"
That's literally what I have in mind. Sharon is deeply distrustful of the whole thing. He doesn't think that anybody's going to be right. You know, these guys...
You can picture Sharon just being on tenterhooks for like half an hour, just willing.
Marginally better than Vulcans. That's what these guys are.
He's nothing if not consistent.
So before Lennox enters the room to interrogate them, I pass along the data provided by the science team and ask her if she's doing anything after this interrogation. Maybe she wants to go for... Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Continue.
She looks at you and she's like...
You know any good fire hydrants?
Your type, you're always thinking with your groins.
She just like clears her throat and makes sure that you notice that she has a gun on her hip.
I like this one.
Okay, so you have 3 suspects to interrogate. Who would you like to interrogate first?
The top dude. What's his name?
Macklin?
That one.
Macklin. Bert Macklin.
Hold on. What are the? I'm sorry. What race are we impersonating?
You are impersonating the Kalmuri. This is the planet of Kalma.
Okay. And does their society require that they have legal counsel present?
I'm going to go ahead and say no.
Okay. Is there any other interrogation methods and/or literature we need to be aware of before we start leaning on these people?
I will say
you won't need any Andal literature.
All interrogations are recorded both on using a tape recorder and using video cameras, as is standard practice. And for the purposes of fiction, I'm going to say that these are honest cops.
That's what we say.
Fiction.
For the purposes of fiction. So we're going to go with Director Macklett first. So he's sort of like an edgy fellow. You get the impression, just based when he passes you as you go through the door, and he kind of gives you a little nod, Tran, because you're hanging around. You get the impression he's pretty harried. He has a lot on his mind. Maybe not the most scientifically inclined of individuals. Maybe more focused on the administrative, bureaucratic, the financial side of things, perhaps. Definitely not a scientist in either sort of look or in how he sort of carries himself. He's not a nerd. So he's sort of he sits himself down, and you get the impression he wants to get this over and done with as soon as possible, because he kind of barks at Lanix. All right, how long is this going to take? I have funerals to attend, and yes, he does bark. Yes,
funerals to attend. Whoa.
With very, very small pieces in very large boxes. So you can understand this is very inconvenient for me.
They dig the graves with their back paws.
Oh my god!
This is very in-depth lore.
That's racist.
It's not. It's speciesist.
Oh, sorry, I got the wrong.
No, it's not xenophobic. Get it right.
I'm sorry,
no, that's me, and that's good.
I'm only xenophobic to races that don't exist.
What's that line from Goldbember? There's only two things I hate in this world: people who are intolerant of other people's cultures and the Dutch.
The Dutch are evil.
Right.
All right, GM can go on as many tangents as he wants. That's the rule.
Yeah, I'm allowed. It's my story. Fuck you guys.
Okay.
All right. Now, so Lanix is gonna sort of give you a bit of a nod, Mayweather, to open a file in front of you.
Hold on a second. Is there any tell from the Calorians when they're nervous, like human sweat? Do their tails wag or something? No.
Ear twitches would be sort of the most common thing. Shifty eyes, maybe shifting of the whiskers, that type of thing.
Right.
I feel like we're playing LA.
Oh, that's the magic word. So I'm going to send Otto a bit of information, because Lanix is going to give Travis a nod to open a file, because they have a file on Macklett, specifically. And that's the information contained within. I've just DM'd it for him, if he wouldn't mind summing it up for you.
Lanix investigation has turned up evidence that Macklett has misappropriated Institute finances to feed his gambling addiction. Okay, so presumably, for that to be some kind of motive, someone would have to be aware of that impropriety. Perhaps someone else who also has access to the Institute finances. So...
He spent too long throwing those bones.
Damn it. Spent too long chasing the roulette wheel.
Okay, so shall she continue the investigation?
That's essentially as far as she's gotten so far. It's because gambling is legal in Kalmar. This has mostly come up in
embezzlement is not.
Embezzlement is, however, it's a case
of legal. Okay.
No, embezzlement is illegal. However, they are still progressing in the case. They need hard evidence, and so far, They have missing funds. Macklet has access to those funds. He has a gambling addiction. He has been cited in casinos. His personal finances do not seem to indicate he would be a man of the means to support this addiction because he's not a very successful gambler. So it is a natural line that they have drawn. However, they do not have a smoking gun, as it were. They don't have a direct transaction to link it.
Do they have enough to hold him?
That's the thing. The only reason this has come up is because he's in connection with another crime. This is sort of like contextual stuff. This would probably take another 6 to 12 months to turn into anything solid, and could potentially be waved away with a bribe if the less than honest cops were involved in a case like this. Because obviously murder and investigation into a deadly accident is taken much more seriously than embezzlement.
So, if he's embezzling, I guess the link to a motive would be if Ricardo Lee were to somehow discover it while he was there, or while any of the 3 dead scientists, and then Macklet would have killed them to cover his impropriety.
But he didn't die. What if Lee found out about the plan beforehand and faked his death? But for what reason would he do that?
So, Dr. Kortar and Imran, would they have had any access to Institute finances?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a motive for 2 of the dead people.
Can we use the ship to scan the planet for R. Kelly?
You can, however, you will have incredible difficulty, and I will not give you any. Fine. Because you are keep in mind this is. And also, don't forget, this is still Star Trek, where scanners can be obscured by any number of things.
Okay, this is the GM's way of saying you ain't getting shit from that, right? Fine.
What if we take shuttle pod?
You could spend like 5 momentum. I'd be happy to let you spend it all.
Oh,
and I'll give you an answer
thanks.
Remember. Ricardo Lee was definitely here at some point.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry. Carry on.
Okay, I tell you what, then let's move on to interrogating one of the other 2, either Jezen or...
Oh, listening, you haven't asked him a question yet.
What do you mean?
Do you want to ask Macklet questions directly?
Directly or through Lennox?
Through Lennox, yeah.
No.
She's your player. She's your voice in this instance.
I see.
You are collaborators, after all.
Well, you had said that's all he gave up, so I thought we were done with him.
No, that was file.
Yeah, she gave you a nod to look at the file. That's sort of like context, like to sort of like help you like guide your investigation. She is still sitting in the room with him, sort of like letting him blow himself out over having to be here for this. So,
knowing that there was some information going between the 2 of them, I'd go make my way back up to I'll round to the mirrored glass wherever it is that Mayweather is looking at the information. I'm saying, I think there's a way of attacking this. By A, implying that he's insecure about his abilities because he's not an actual scientist, he's a bureaucrat, and B, saying that in order to try and make himself feel good about things, he's gone to less than savoury means in order to shore up his bureaucrat pay to reach the levels of whatever these highfalutin projects that these scientists are going on, and that's why he was jealous of these 3 of these scientists, and that's why he killed them. Go down that route. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I tell you what, my first question relayed to try to make his ears twitch. Ask him who had access to Institute financial records.
So his ears don't twitch. However, he does noticeably sort of like swallow and avoid eye contact. Well, it's a matter of public record. We are a publicly funded institute, and it's a matter of you can look it up yourself if you're so inclined. What are you implying?
I don't know, Shran. What are we implying? Didn't think we'd get this far.
We have looked it up, and there are irregularities. They need to be explained. There's money's missing.
Damn.
Bluff.
You're not tiptoeing.
I love it. So, and what does that have to do with me? Like, obviously I'll have to look into this, but I don't see how this is pertinent to a murder investigation or an accident or whatever this is.
Those scientists knew. They knew about your misgivings, your misdealings, your ways of ferreting away money and funding to your own selfish users.
So he sort of like sits back at that. Look. Okay, fine. Imran knew. All right, he knew. And he may or may not have been blackmailing me. But that's fine. Because it was a business transaction between understanding individuals. He may have been arrogant, manipulative, less skilled than his mentor, but he brought fresh insights to the field, which is more than Safer Jezen has done in the past decade. She was of value to this institute during my predecessor's tenure, but her time has passed. Imran was a bastard, to be sure, but genius forgives a multitude of sins. Why do you think I kept Kortar on staff despite the way he treated his poor grad student?
How did he treat his grad student? Is this new information?
That is new information. He sort of realizes he said a bit too much there and he clams up. You'll have to ask her about that. That's not my business.
You know about it. You will tell us. We need to know from an independent third party. I'm not asking her. I'm asking you. You're here now.
I just picture they're inside the interrogation room, and they hear this slightly muffled Andor yelling on the other side of the
I want to burst in, but it doesn't work.
This is just like, calm the fuck down.
I will.
All right, I'm gonna feed her the question, Mr. Macklett. There are 3 people that have access to the Institute's finances, and 2 of them are dead.
Yeah,
that's it. Make them sweat.
Yes, and I suppose you realize that from my perspective, this is the worst possible outcome. If I am in financial troubles, which I will not admit to, that is not this is not on record. Loud Andorian laughter.
You can hear it through the glass. That's how loud it is.
If I am in some degree of financial trouble, this is the worst possible outcome for me. Losing Kortar and Imran and still having that old hag Jezen is the worst possible outcome from my perspective. Even if I had the scientific knowledge to sabotage the Taurus or whatever it is and escape somehow, I would have had no motive.
I can just imagine, like, you know, Lanix is just saying to her, please pay no attention to the Andorian behind the mirror.
Oh, I'm pootling round now. I'm coming round. That's not going to work much more. It's not going to work for much longer. Ollie goes on this spiel about, which actually I quite believe, about the fact that if someone dies while he's trying to embezzle funds, it makes the situation so much worse for him because it focuses attention on his financial dealings. I go, yeah, that's fair enough. I still want to know about this intern. I think he knows, and I don't want to hear it from a third party. I want to be able to corroborate it with a third party, but I want to get the details from him. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to come round to the door. And is it locked? Or can I just
rattle the doorknob? Just rattle it. Get them all worked up.
I'm just going to turn the handle really, really slowly.
It's turned into a horror.
Okay, Lex is going to have to exercise some restraint here and ask you exactly what you intend to do if you do enter this room.
Oh no, it's going to be verbal. Just
okay.
Saying you know more than you're saying. You need to tell us what's going on right now. And I want to use my focus in interrogation, believe it or not, in order to get some more information out of him about what happened between the grad student and the scientist, Dr.
Kortar. Yes.
Kortar, sorry, I beg your pardon.
Shran opens the doors and goes, guys, lunch is ready.
I'll talk.
Okay. So Lennox, like, once you get your assurance on your honor that you will not escalate to physical violence, she does allow you inside, and you are going to have to give me a roll. I'm going to have to go and say this is going to be a...
Cool.
How are you going about this? Are you trying to intimidate him, or are you just going for sheer force of personality?
I don't know. There's one security and one command.
Well, I'm more thinking about your attribute. I'm trying to work out if this should be presence or daring.
Oh my gosh! Right. Okay.
So if you're trying to intimidate him, it's going to be like presence. But if it's going to be like just getting up in his face and trying to rattle his cage, I'll say daring.
It'll be rattling his cage, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go with daring, and I'm going to go ahead and say command for this.
14. Okay,
and
so
your focus and interrogation absolutely applies. This is a difficulty of 2 because you've already gotten him to a point where he's not an. He's
admitted it. I just want the detail.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get 2 dice. It's difficulty 2.
Yep.
We do have a lot of momentum if you want to.
I was going to say, so I'll buy a momentum to see if I can get. Yeah. Hang on a second.
I have a question. Do we all have earpieces, or is it just a mic in the other room to Lanix's ear?
I would say you'd all have earpieces. Like, this is the kind of preparation you'd want to do so that everyone's on the same page. Because the last thing you want with an interrogation is someone flying off the handle and it ruins a potential avenue that was opening up.
Yeah.
I also
yeah.
Oh, let's Shy. Sky. Sorry.
Is Lieutenant Reed eating Cheetos with chopsticks?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
I believe we're all crowded around the communicator, aren't we? Just going.
By the way, don't we have a standing order?
Mystery theater.
I just have to say, as somebody who eats breadsticks with a knife and fork, I have the utmost respect for that.
That's pretty good. It stops your fingers from getting sticky when you're using a keyboard. I'm impressed. Well done, Reed. Well done.
Any other way is,
yeah.
Do they make pineapple-flavored Cheetos?
That's exactly what these are, sir.
So,
pineapple.
This is your newfound freedom.
I'm going to spend a point of determination to get an extra die. I'm a veteran, so whenever I spend a point of determination, I roll 1 delta.
Hold on.
Is that a D6?
Momentum or determination?
Yeah, because they're different things. Momentum's the one used to buy extra dice. Determine's the one where you use a value, and if it applies, you get automatic successes.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. So I didn't spend a point of determination there. It was just a point of momentum. I'll put that back away again. Okay, no, right. Doesn't matter. We're not going to regain it. So, 3 dice. 2 successes, 1 failure, but not a critical.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, good to know. So, you are projecting a sheer force personality here. Like, you are a seasoned interrogator, and you are a military individual, and you are making sure that he is aware of your bearing. You are in his personal space. You are being very careful not to touch him. But you are projecting your voice, and you are commanding him.
Please describe his antenna.
They are quivering. They are a quiver.
Okay.
Like
so this is borderline rage. This is not.
I'm not full of rage. I'm affecting rage and indignant at his demeanor and his lack of response to our direct questions. But underneath all of this, Jean is cool as a cucumber.
Oh, wait a sec. You don't have antenna, your dog. I'm sorry.
Dog tenor.
Scratch that.
It's my ears then. It's my ears. That's what's going. They're pricking. As if my antennas were my ears. Which they probably are. Who knows how the whole thing works?
I'd actually be quite uncomfortable for an Andorian to have them folded underneath a prosthetic. See, you're projecting like this, and it doesn't take him long to crack. And he just shouts, "He was a creep, all right. He was a pervert."
Wow.
And that's about as. That's pretty.
So who's that referring to again?
I mean, still, that's a character assassination, but it's not detail, really. You know, but if there isn't anything more about that in the story, I'll just go with that.
Yeah. There is more because you still have to interrogate the subject of that, I guess, harassment.
The creepiness right, okay.
Yeah, that is an element of the story. That being said, he's not going to tell you any more about that. Precisely, partly because you are terrifying him, and partly because he doesn't feel like it's his thing to tell. But he's referring to Kortar in that instance.
Right, okay.
Anything else you would like to ask this poor bedraggled civilian, or have you run your information's worth out of him?
Okay, I've rolled the dice. I'm good.
Presumably, Lanix is back in the room with me behind the glass. Yes.
She's going to stay there with Strand. She is not going to let him do this alone.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, but
that's a shame. I was going to ask her a question surreptitiously, and now I can't.
I am an
alien. Okay, what were you going to ask?
She thinks that Macklin has any other information for us, or if that's all he's going to give us. Because we do have 2 other suspects to interrogate.
Yeah.
So you know what? In fact, for the purpose of this, I said Mia. Okay, yeah, she does leave the room for a bit to let Shran project himself.
She has military training, yes, or just
no,
police?
she's pure police, but she is a hardened veteran. She's been on the force for a while.
Since I'm in her ear, I'm going to say, hands behind her back. Give me a 1 or a 2 if you think he has more, or if it's nothing. And what does she give me?
She gives you a 1 for yes. She thinks there's a little bit more here, maybe.
Okay.
But maybe we're barking up the wrong tree.
No.
For this last little bit.
I couldn't resist.
Oh dear.
I'm going to tap into Shran's ear, and I'm going to tell him to go ballistic on this guy. Grab him, put your hands on him, and do what you have to do.
Oh!
Get hot on him. Come on, grab him, put your hands on him. Do what you have to do. Get angry. I got a plan. Trust me.
Okay. Don't trust you. But hey, what the heck? I get to grab a dude and shake him around.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. This is going to be fitness and security. I'm going to make it a difficulty 3. No, difficulty 4. But you do have a talent because you made a promise to Lanix on your honor.
Oh yeah.
That you would not get physical.
Yeah.
That being said, you have a talent, proud and honorable. Whenever Shran attempts a task to resist being coerced into breaking a promise, betraying his allies, or otherwise acting dishonorably, he reduces the difficulty by 1. I think that'd be appropriate.
Yeah, that's right. But I'm trying to resist it, not trying to do it.
To resist.
All right.
Hey, if the GM wants to give you a free minus difficulty,
The letter of the law, the spirit of the law here.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
Justify it in that you are a father yourself, and the idea of this guy taking advantage of someone who's like not that she's like Nilorn is like in her early 20s, incidentally.
Well,
so you could reason it as
pushes quite a few buttons of mine.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, top of you. Sorry, guys.
Damn, Shran is such a family man.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah, that kind of scenario does really push a few of the buttons there for me. So yeah, okay. Difficulty 4. How much determination can I buy? What?
Momentum. You can buy 2 with the remaining momentum we have. You can buy 2 more dice.
That's the only thing. Are you sure we need to do this, Mayweather?
Well, if my plan works, it doesn't matter if you pass or fail this. So I would say do whatever your heart desires.
I'm going to hope for crits. Yeah, I guess I'm going to hope for crits.
Okay.
If you want, you could spend a point of determination. It's up to you.
What have you got? Let's have a look.
Well, does it work?
The way determination works is you have to pick a value that you think is applicable to the situation and play into Shran's character. And if I deem it acceptable, then you get an automatic 1 dice that is added to your pool that gives you an automatic 2 successes.
Okay, so I've got respect must be earned, and he has absolutely lost all of my respect. He's got the absolutely opposite of that. So that's one of the values that I have. Yeah, I mean, mistrustful of Vulcans. He's not a Vulcan, but he's similar to a Vulcan. That's not good enough.
I think there's also maybe a degree of learn from history lest you repeat it, because like the idea that if you don't, attack this now and attack the rot, maybe it won't apply. It won't be fixed. That I think Tran is a person who rages against injustice.
Yeah. 1 minute. No. You're all going to bed. I'm really sorry.
It's all good. You're all good.
Blooming kids! Yeah, so, yeah. No, I would suggest that that's the case as well, yeah. So we don't want that happening again. And, if he's let off the hook now, yeah. Okay.
It means you can use your veteran talent as well and re-roll to see if you get it back.
Exactly. Yeah, I might get it back when I roll a thingy. So so I get an extra dice, or I get an extra.
You don't need to roll. You just get 2 successes automatically. So just roll your 2.
All right, and then I roll 2 more. Right. Okay. And what did you say the check was? Fitness and security.
Yes, because you are physically in his space now.
Yeah. No, that's right. So that's 13.
So let's see how this goes.
A 19 and a 17.
Ooh.
Roll
and is it a 1 on the die for determination?
It's a 5 or if you roll a 5 or a 6.
5 or 6. No.
Oh no.
Good thing Mayweather's plan doesn't.
This is foolproof, guys.
Over?
Foolproof.
Clearly it's user error. All right, I'm gonna say that like you are in his space. You're trying to shake it out of him, but Lanix stops you before you go too far and potentially lose yourself. She's gonna stop you there and like hold you to your promise.
So
no, that makes sense. I actually feel bad about that. I don't know why I listened to Mayweather.
First, second, third, last mistake.
You're not even gonna give me a chance here. I thought we were partners.
Learn from history, lest you repeat it. That's the last time that's ever happening.
All right, so if I can steal the narration a bit, Lanix grabs him to pull him off him. I bust in the room and grab him. He's not worth it, buddy, and I try to pull him back out of the room.
What? I'm quite confused. But what? Why? You were the one.
The 3 of us exit the room, close the door.
I'll never understand.
I'm patting his jacket. Calm down, buddy. So I'm gonna go back in. I'm gonna give Lanix the old wink and tell her, let me go in by myself. So I go in and sit down across the table from him. And I'm going to
flash him with your winning smile.
This plan sounded better in my head.
Let's give it.
I'm going to engage in a staring contest with this guy. Because I have one applicable value and or talent on this whole friggin' mission. And it's patience is a virtue. So I'm going to see if I can get this guy to crack by just sitting across the table, calmly staring at him. So I'd like to use my value of patience as a virtue to get the crit dice.
Okay.
I'd like to use my focus and composure.
Okay.
And I'd like to... what difficulty would this be, by the way, to get information?
To try and break him just by sheer force of staring, I'm going to say that's going to be at least... I think it's only fair to make that difficulty 4, considering the fact that the previous difficulty 4 one didn't work.
Fine. This is going to work, guys. Trust me.
And for this roll, I would say this is going to be a...
So why are we spending momentum?
Hold on.
Sorry, I missed that.
I gave you credit the other week when we were building our character stars for your lovely explanation of the command discipline and how it's not just piloting craft, it's also being in control of yourself and your composure. Yeah. So since that is above 2, I'd like to use my command discipline and whatever attribute you feel is necessary.
Command is absolutely applicable, and I'm going to go ahead and say that presence would be most applicable for this.
Okay. God, his rolls suck. So 12. So I have a dice with 2 automatic. I'd like to buy a 4th dice with 1 momentum.
Yeah.
And a 5th dice with threat.
Ooh.
Because I have a talent that when I buy dice with threat, I get to re-roll one of them.
Interesting.
Okay, yeah, I'll absolutely allow that. This is...
Pieces are coming together, baby. This is going to work.
This is a powerful roll. I can't wait for it to all go right.
Okay, so I'm rolling 4 dice.
Unlike mine, which definitely did not.
All right, I'm rolling 4 dice. I have it's a difficulty of 2. I get an automatic crit because of my value. I'm spending my determination. And I roll. Mind you, this is a roll of 12 because Mayweather friggin' sucks.
Yeah.
I failed 2 and I passed 2.
Okay.
So I passed difficulty 4.
Okay.
He has nothing else of value to share.
This was the last of my torpedoes. I'm throwing them all at the ship.
Okay. So, at first, Maclet seems just perturbed, a bit worried, a bit confused as to what you're even doing here. And he's trying to poke you and prod you verbally. He's like, "What? Are you trying to, get the lawsuit I'm probably going to be lodging against your precinct, further into this? Like, what is this?" But patience is a virtue. And you just sit and you stare with your wonderful Anthony Montgomery face. And eventually he starts to squirm because you just refuse to look away. And it's going to take around about 5-10 minutes. And he just cracks. He's like, "God, what? What do you want to know? I will tell you if you would stop looking at me."
Oh, I was hoping he would just spill the beans. I got to ask a question now? Hold on.
Well, no, okay, you know what? Because you did roll so well, I'll let the he pauses for a minute, and he says, "God, you look just like frickin' Jizen when she was trying to guilt me into keeping that stupid plating of hers in the lab. She was insistent she could modify it. And she looked at me just like you are right now. Bland, awful, horrible eyes. Both of you. And he seems disgusted. Stubborn, the lot of you. Hate scientists."
Okay, as I'm not a trained interrogator, this is where I would stand up and walk to the door and open it and allow Investigator Lennox back in to...
Yeah, she's gonna sort of like look back at you as you leave, as like she's like looking back at Maclet, who's like sweating. And she's, "What the hell?"
Just crying, curled up in the corner, thinking of Mayweather.
You'll never forget those bland eyes. Like for 15 years down the line, he'll be like lying awake in bed, and suddenly he'll hear "sweet spot." All right, that's all you're gonna get out of Maclet. But I think that was a pretty fruitful interrogation.
Is this the least effective way that you ever envisioned us?
Oh, no, I love this. This is great fun. This is great. I'm having the time of my life.
Well done. Well done for doing the staring contest interrogation in real time. Well done.
Could I ask a meta question?
Go for it.
Could we have gotten that information by paying them to get information?
No.
Okay.
That's the kind of thing that would have normally come up in maybe another interrogation if you would roll particularly well, or perhaps later on down the line if you had gone out of your way to look into it. But that is like a detail that is relatively minor and would normally not have come up unless Mayweather had taken the tact he did.
Yeah.
Because
well,
it
that
was
was way more
specifically the
stylish
stubbornness.
anyway.
No,
Yes,
that was good.
Absolutely. The stubbornness is what triggered it, like, because it was Jezen's stubbornness that is what he was reminded of. So
not me. No, I'm useless. Interrogator.
Hey, good cop, bad cop. That's rule number one. All right, I want to call the science team and fill them in on everything. Does the science team have any questions or any intuition as to where we should go from here?
So this was the rival's plating that was in the lab. So Jezen was the rival. They kept it there. I'm struggling to find the link between that and Ricardo Lee, though, because in my head that would be like, right, they foiled. She put it there as something that interfered with the experiment that made it go wrong. But he's got away. He's survived. So unless he's working with Jezen, the only thing I can think of.
I guess we don't know what the alternative. They would have had to completely dismantle the gravity plating and recycle it or something.
Yeah, so the official line was that like it was just too bulky to be removed, but Maclet is now sort of like let you in on know that it would have been maybe a day's work. It wouldn't, and the convenience of not having it in the lab would have been like probably worth it. But Jezen insisted on keeping it there because she believed she could fix it and make it work.
Okay.
Could you ask when the last time the gravity plating was activated? was?
That would have come up in the scan, but thanks to it being a similar technology to the Taurus, that's not information you can obtain through a scan, unfortunately.
No. In the interrogation,
Oh yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
Oh, you asked if we wanted to convey any questions to the interrogator.
It's not a bad question, mate. Whether
We haven't been to the monitor room yet, have we?
Monitor room?
There's a monitor room in the Atheos Institute. They sort of said before. There's a monitor room, then just slightly below the. I'm gonna guess it's not important since you went monitor room. Sarah, maybe I'll skip that line.
toilets.
Do you mean the observation observation room?
Possibly, yeah. Is it just simply?
That's where you. That's where you met Mackler for the first time. And Shran screamed it for 15 minutes.
Okay, right, fine.
Yeah.
I shall delay no further.
Yeah, it's pretty much like if you imagine a university sort of like lecture hall, how they'll sometimes have like those like recessed up places.
Not like CCTV cameras everywhere with like technical equipment around. Okay.
No.
Can we do an A story, B story thing where we pop back to the science team and give them something else to do? So it's not just us screaming at detainees for the next 40 minutes? Or would you rather us continue?
Is there anything much more we can do?
Not much more in the lab. Okay. That being said, I would say that the amount of time that it would take Mayweather to do a staring contest and the rest, you have two options. You can either take the car back to the precinct and join in the interrogation, or you could potentially try and follow up with the science team and see what maybe they know.
What?
I would like to see an interrogation montage where Stars has to play each of the different people being interrogated.
It's fine. I can do that.
Can you grab your camera and get uncomfortably close as you're yelling at the person you're interrogating? There you go.
Yes, I can. I really can.
Whoa, Greg Gowron impersonation.
I've just got big eyes.
That's all it takes, really.
I'm not going to do that, though.
So, yes, we can absolutely do an A story, B story. It kind of depends on how T'Pol, Reed, and Flops would like to approach the situation. If they would like to join their companions, or if they would like to go off on their own to the observation lab and follow up on either what they've learned here or from the lab.
As I remember, we haven't talked to the observation team at all, right?
You have.
Oh, we have?
Yeah, when we first beamed down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We got them to corroborate the story as it was told to us, I believe.
Yeah, and that's where you got some of the flavor about Tagur not being in favor of immersion anthropology and being less than approving of Dr. Lee's methods, that sort of thing.
Should we rock back then, if there's nothing more this way?
Rock back where, though?
The interrogation.
That doesn't narrow it down.
Oh, sorry. I see. They're not all sort of gathered in the same area. I thought they were all sort of being brought into
Because remember, the observation team are all in the outposts. Right. They are not in the precinct. Right. Like, one of them isn't even in disguise. They are just like a Vulcan as appearing. Gotcha. So they are. Yes. So that's why you have to choose if you want to join Travis and Shran at the precinct, or if you want to go to the outpost and do an A story, B story. You'll obviously have to do both, but...
Yeah.
At the discretion of my commander. Pass the buck.
I'm just trying to give Shiaport and company something to do other than eating Cheetos, you know?
Yeah.
I'm delighted to continue watching the
this has been nice.
Law and Order. Law and Order.
Dun dun.
Dun dun. Oh, I was going to do that.
Okay, so let's get back in the car, and Mayweather can drive, or Reed can drive us back, and then we'll
make them roll.
The show in person.
I'm going to make them roll. I will lower the difficulty this time though, because you are a bit more practiced now. So what was it? It was Control plus Con difficulty 2, please.
Use strap.
That's a lot easier next time around, isn't it?
Are we still backseat driving?
Hell yeah.
Yes, you can absolutely backseat drive.
You don't know it's crashing.
I know. I know what that button does.
It's the windscreen wipers.
I like how Shy keeps checking his blind spot. This man is committed.
I rolled 2 successes.
Infinity welcomes careful drivers.
I got a 20.
Oh no!
Wait, does that hurt me?
Yes.
You're in the car with him.
I think I fall out of the car, did I?
Went over a pothole.
Really, what did you roll, please?
I have 2 successes. I have a 6 out of 10.
Okay,
got
so
one.
you get momentum overall. I'm going to take that as threat because you know what? I'll take it as threat and say that Phlox, in your eagerness to overcorrect one of Reed's
Shotgun.
more interesting driving decisions, he takes a sharp turn a little bit too hard at your advice, and you thump your head into the window.
Do I take a stress?
You take a stress.
Ah.
And you also manage to inadvertently strangle yourself on the seatbelt, and it's quite embarrassing.
Is he just dead now, or what?
He slumps to the floor unconscious, with no one able there to help him with medical aid. He dies. He was the doctor. He could not heal himself.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Since I'm dead, the stream's over. No.
I can't play. Nothing gets to play.
I'll take the stress.
Okay.
Chat says some people have to pay to be strangled.
Little do you know, this is the reason Phlox has the eels. This is I'm getting all puffed up.
All right.
Let's get back.
You're going back to the precinct to join your cohorts, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So you re-enter the precinct and
Wait. Shy, can you parallel park us, please?
Yes. Of course.
That's a disabled spot, Shine. It's a disabled spot.
Damn it.
Could you not see? There's a picture of some kind of dog that's got.
It's a 3-legged dog on the side.
Okay.
All right. In the interest of speeding things along, I'd like to bring in Nalorn next as Maclet's assistant, and I want to do the old, Maclet said you would know this, or he said that you did this, which is an obvious lie to see if we can get a little more information out of her.
Okay,
I'm not going to interrogate her because that's not what I'm about.
No. Fair enough. So I'm going to give you a bit of information. So she approaches the interrogation room, and she's a little bit rattled. Like, she's obviously been to the lab. She has seen this grisly accident. And even though she seemed a little bit ambivalent about her feelings on the matter, which have been given new light by information you've just learned, she does seem a bit shaken up, a little bit emotionally uncertain. And she has that sort of demeanor where you want to take it easy on her, which clearly worked on Shran. Whether or not it'll work on cooler heads is up to you. And she sort of like sits herself down at the table, like brushes off her skirt, and she's like, anything I can do to help in the investigation? Like, it's a horrible accident, a great loss to science. Anything I can do to help, I'm more than happy to do so. And Lanix sort of takes her at face value on this and is like very warm and conciliatory. But she's more than willing to go in on your plan of potentially feeding false lines of information if you are so inclined. So what's your first angle?
Has the mystery mobile arrived? Are we all together now back at the...
I would say so, yes.
Okay.
You're all together. Lanix is a little bit confused as to why Phlox has a big red mark on his forehead and why his prosthetic will have to be reapplied later, but that's fine.
So he's looking like, what's his name? By Grabthar's hammer in Galaxy Quest, where his hair is like coming out of the prosthetic.
Oh, man.
Okay. Anyone have any ideas for how we should question the Lord?
Have you tried staring at them? Just staring directly at them for a while.
My stare meter is at a minimum. I've used it all up.
Right.
What if we just
I
ask
think
her
you're muted,
a
Idle.
neutral question about who is it, Kortar,
Mm-hmm.
and see if we can gauge her reaction.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's good because Makla did say he's a creep and pervert, and she is one of the female dogs there. So maybe she was the subject of one of his creepy perversions.
Entirely possible. So you want to just sort of like gently probe as to sort of like what it was like working under Kortar and stuff like that?
Just kind of bring him up kind of neutrally and see what she says.
Okay, yeah, Lanix is pretty receptive to that. She kind of feels similarly to you in that aspect. She wants to take this a little bit light for the moment. At first, she's very complimentary about Kortar, saying it's a great opportunity for me. I'm freshly out of my studies. This is, there are hundreds of students vying for this position. I was very, very lucky. And Dr. Kortar, he was one of our greatest scientific minds. It was a privilege to work under him. He was great man. Very. It's a great loss to the planet, and she is a little bit more. She's like shopping it a little bit. There's a lot of conflicted feeling in that Lanix is picking up on too, and she's like more than willing to go in on that if you want her to. Yeah.
Would it be cheating if, sorry, breaking the wall here. Would it be cheating if one of us played Loxana Troy next time and just read the minds of everyone?
Oh no! It appears everyone is free.
Excuse me.
What if?
Because
What if I used my medical tricorder to do some sort of what's the old term thing they use where they try and truth like some
lie detector?
Yeah, lie
there's a word for it, isn't there? But if I could use my scanner to try gauge their opinions as they, this is why I'm here. I can now do sort of real time kind of like heart beats up.
Okay,
seems very suspicious.
Strap her down and inject her with the truth serum. That's what
it's
I.
either polyamory or polygraph.
Polygraph.
One of those two.
Yes, polyamory is where you like different lots of people at the same time. I think. Polyamorous. Okay.
No, that's polyamorous is a lie detector test.
Yeah. Polygamy is when you love lots of pygmies.
No, that's Pygmalion.
There we go. Now we're rolling on the. All right. I'm so sorry. Stars hates our guts.
It's all good.
Can I do a lie detector?
Now, what I will say is that in the common verbiage, polygraph tests are complete garbage. They are completely unreliable. That being said, you have access to 20... This is 22nd century science, and as we saw in Discovery, I believe, Starfleet does use them, and they must be assumed to be of a reasonable amount of reliability for Starfleet, of all people, to be using them. So, that being said, I will make you roll for every question you ask with the polygraph. Yes?
Question. Normally those operate off a baseline emotional response. Do we have that in this case, and who would it have been provided by? The xenoanthropology team, or?
I would say that a combination of the xenoanthropology team and also Lanix's psychological profile of her, because they would have a police psychologist on staff who would have talked with everyone after the accident in the form of counselling, which they would have provided as well, but also given a sort of a general idea of what their bearing was like after the accident. It's a relatively fresh report, so you can't be sure how reliable it is. But I say for the purposes of this, it will be reliable enough for an emotional baseline. So, do you want to do a polygraph immediately now to gauge whether or not she's telling the truth about her feelings on Kortar in that respect?
No. I think I'll wait till I get a bit of information first. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm glad we went down this route.
No, I mean, I'm going to use it in the future, but I'm not going to use it for this particular question.
Okay. So she sort of like clams up once because she kind of realizes that even though she's saying these things about Corto, about how much she admired him, she can't project it into her voice quite enough to come across as convincing, and she can see that Lanix isn't quite buying it the more she gets into it. So she just kind of like clams up and just like avoiding eye contact. No ear twitches just yet. But...
Does the closest thing we had to a trained interrogate? Well, I guess Shran would be too, but Mr. Reed, surely you have some insight into how to break a person. I'm sorry. Are we condolences, or are we trying to break her? What's going on?
Is it? That's why I don't want to get involved in this particular one.
I would be inclined to play nice cop for like one more question.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly.
Because there's no coming back from.
I just want to hear more Reed accent. That's basically what I'm going.
Should I go in and conduct the investigation?
You're more than welcome to help Lanix out if you wish.
Very well. Very well. I go into the room. Good day, Inspector Lanix.
She gives you a quick nod.
I just have I grab a clipboard before I go in. So I'm flipping through, you know.
So it's good to have a prop.
Yes. And what is your name, Miss?
And sort of like the Nilorn who has already given her name to Lanix is a little bit confused. Was like, Manny Nilorn, are you helping Inspector Lanix here?
You might say that, yes.
I see.
And what was your relationship with Dr. Kortar?
I was his graduate student. I was working under him as a part of my studies in gravitational field theory.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yes.
Working under him, you say?
Yes. And were you very close with Dr. Kortar?
Well, I wouldn't say that I was close. We had a professional working relationship, and we occasionally had coffee at his request.
And how often would he request coffee with you, Matt?
Well, as often as he could.
I see.
Whether
They're
or
not
not
strictly professional, then.
Well, I wanted to keep it professional. Like, I didn't want to make a bad impression. Like, I wanted to work at the Research Institute once I finished my studies. I didn't want to come across as if I were trying to use my agenda against that, but other people didn't quite see it that way.
I see. Understand that no one in this room believes that you are at fault for your boss's improprieties.
Her face falls at that. And even though you get the impression that she didn't exactly take Macklet into her confidence, it's more likely that Macklet just knew, either through reviewing CCTV footage or because he just knew what Kortar was like. There's a degree of almost wounded trust on her face. But she almost seems relieved that it's out in the open now and that you've said that. And she sort of like brings her hands up and just like, well, I suppose improprieties is one way of calling them. Yes, that's accurate.
Indeed. I turn around and look at the mirror.
Ask her how it started.
How did your relationship start?
Well, it started as most grad students and their supervisors go, but it wasn't what I'd call a willing relationship. It wasn't something I sought. Put it nicely, he wasn't my type. He was older, irritable, a genius, but very aware of it, and very, very aware of his status, to the point that he would make sure I was aware of his status if I were to complain.
While she's talking, can I do my polygraph scan on Detective Lanix?
Okay.
I am my thinking on this is I'm feeling like we're barking up the wrong tree, as it were. That I think that we're interviewing all these people, but we haven't had a lot of detail on Lanix, and I would like to find out what kind of reactions Lanix is having to these questions, or specifically, is certain things making. Is she not reacting deliberately? Like, is her heart rate going up when she says certain things, but she's not reacting to them? Like, is there a
That would
signal
appearance?
she might be concealing something that she knows she's not giving to us. Because I'm convinced at least that the grad student here, Lemmy Maroon, whatever her name was is fairly sort of indifferent to this whole thing. But I'm kind of intrigued to see what Lanix is.
Plenty O'Toole was her name. Manny Nalorn.
Manny Lalorn.
Yes. Many Nalorns have been found.
Many Nalorns were sacrificed in gaining this intelligence.
I'm gonna say that the difficulty is going to be increased because you do not have a baseline for Lanix.
Okay.
She is not going to provide you with a psychological profile of herself. So if you wish to surreptitiously turn your scanner and try and do a polygraph to see how Lanix is reacting to these, that is going to be a medicine plus insight difficulty 4.
Ooh.
Because she is a hardened police detective.
Here we go.
When
Phlox attempts a task to learn about an unfamiliar culture or act in an appropriate manner when interacting with members of such culture, he reduces the difficulty by 1. I think that absolutely counts. So 3.
Bam.
Yes.
Okay.
And can I help him in any way?
You're not a medical professional, so I'll say no.
Shoot the tricorder with the phaser.
If T'Pol wishes, I would maybe allow T'Pol to assist only.
Okay. I got nothing else going on.
Okay, how about this? Maybe if we can time it right with an inflammatory question that might reveal something, maybe that's how Reed could help.
Okay.
Well, I thought I could surreptitiously ask baseline questions.
You see a turtle on the side of the road.
The detective here has been here how long?
The turtle's on its back.
Yeah. Okay, so T'Pol's helping. Do you reckon I should buy a dice? What do we reckon?
How much momentum do we have?
We've got 2.
We've got 3. Oh.
4?
4.
6. None.
Yeah. I'll buy.
If we've got 2, I think maybe not.
Okay. All right.
Well, I say buy one because if we tip off Lanix, then we have nothing because she's going to kick us out or re-imprison us.
That's good for nobody. All right, I'm rolling 3, and my time. What did you say? Insight and medicine.
Yes.
16, baby. Come on. And I'm going to use psychology as my focus.
I'll allow that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Awesome. And I got 16. I got 2 successes. But one was a 2, so that's 3. So I got 3 successes.
Okay.
Wow.
It's all on you, T'Pol.
Can I use presence? Could I use presence and science?
I'm not going to say presence. I would say insight or reason would make more sense in this respect.
Okay, could I use reason and science?
Yeah, absolutely.
And can I use my focus in infiltration?
Since it's being done in surreptitiously, I would say yes.
All right, wish me luck.
Okay, go for it.
Got it. Got a 10.
Nice. We got momentum back.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and say
No momentum, right? It was a 4 difficulty, and we got 4.
But it was reduced by 1 due to Fox's talent. Yeah.
Pay attention,
it's all good. So I'm going to go ahead and say that, especially you get a response from that last question, and you'll also be able to get a general response to the next question you will ask. since you did roll pretty well. At the sort of revelation of the power dynamics of Kortar and Nilorn's relationship, Lanix's emotions can be best described as disgust, anger, sympathy, a degree of compassion, maybe a bit of murderous intent, quickly dampened by the fact that the man who she seems to be feeling it for is dead.
So there is a personal motive here with Lennox.
Yes.
Lennox.
Which leads to my next question. Ms. Lamorne, if that's indeed your real name.
It is, thank you.
Did anyone else feel as you do, or feel even more vehemently towards Dr. Kortar?
He wasn't exactly subtle about treating others as he did me, mostly the women. Look, I'm not glad he's dead. He was a genuinely brilliant man, and what he did was, I hate to say this, and this probably sounds like rationalizing, but it was a tragic flaw in an otherwise great man. And it seems like it pains her to say that, she does genuinely believe it. If I blame anyone, I blame Director Macklett for ignoring me when I complained about it. And I feel as if he had stepped in and just told him to watch his hands, then maybe I would have not had to deal with it so much.
What do you believe anyone else in the lab may have taken it upon themselves to step in, as it were?
Possibly. I hate to say it, but there are people in the Institute with far more sturdy spines than I. That being said, I don't know who might have spoken up. If they did, they didn't speak to me about it.
Why do you believe Macklett was not taking your concerns seriously?
The thing is that Kortar was a genuinely brilliant man. He was probably the best chance we had at achieving this technology within our lifetimes. But if Macklett was the one in charge of the money, in charge of resource allocation, in charge of research grants, if he had told him to stop, I like to think he would have stopped. I hope so. Maybe I'm misreading both men in that respect. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit. They were my heroes when I was entering this field to begin with, but I like to think that maybe they were... I don't even know. She seems very, conflicted about this. She doesn't know quite what she's feeling. She seems, unwilling to place the blame squarely on either man, but she doesn't seem to have as much affection for Macklett as she did Kortar, because Kortar at least was a scientist she could respect, whereas Macklett was a bureaucrat who seemed to have ignored her complaints.
So, as an aside, Macklett has motive to kill Kortar because he knew about the embezzlement. He also has motive to want him alive because without his leading the research, they're kind of dead in the water, yes?
Essentially, yeah.
I thought it was the other guy who was blackmailing him about the embezzlement.
It was, Imran was blackmailing.
Kortar and Imran both knew about it, yes?
Oh, did we confirm?
Oh, Imran knew about the financial indiscretions. Yeah. Kortar probably knew as well, but I don't think he would have blackmailed. Don't think he would have bothered.
So Macklin has more motive against Imran and possible motive against Kortar. No, he wouldn't, would he? I think the grad student here is clear. I think she's innocent of this.
I think if Macklett had wanted to dismiss Kortar, such as it were, then he would have taken steps to protect Nilorn against his advances. So I feel like by protecting him, in that respect, he didn't necessarily want him dead, which makes Maklet maybe less likely to be the baddie.
Right.
I feel like that's solid logic.
I think.
So I was trying to see
Who's the Vulcan again?
I think we're missing something with Dory Lennox here, with Detective Lennox. I think she's definitely involved in this. It's just working out how to
She's involved. Why is she helping? Why is she letting us get involved?
Because of the readings when she was disgusted, she had a flash of murderous intent, as Stars described.
Oh, that can mean anything. Murderous intent.
I'm disgusted by this guy too, to be honest.
Well, true.
Yeah,
and I'm completely not involved. I just got here.
Yeah, like keep in mind, like that murderous intent was in response to Nalorn revealing that she had been harassed by this man for at least a year.
Okay.
What were the first two emotions you relayed?
Disgust and anger.
Disgust,
anger, feeling of injustice, I believe.
I mean, those could also be emotions you feel if she were in a relationship with Kortar, knowing that he was tom-dogging around, as it were, with other young ladies.
I feel like this is all distracting from the point, though. We need to chase up Ricardo Lee. We need to find out what's going on there. This is kind of distracting our mission, which is to find.
I know. I'm all hoping about this Kalmiri drama.
This is great.
True.
This is brilliant.
I want to know who tried to kill him, though.
I know.
Yeah. Or the other people.
That's true. If Lee is innocent and he's gone, we have increasingly limited time to find him before.
He's the key piece of evidence.
Should we just
he's
move on to
essentially the
Jezen?
only person you know who was in the room who was alive.
Let's talk to Jezen. The last one now, so Jezen. We'll move on and find out what they know and then try and piece it together.
Hold on. Can we send Reed to surveil Nalorn after she leaves the precinct? Just in case she's hiding something. He would be the best at espionage and apparently driving.
And driving.
He's a steakhouse.
Like Nalorn, in the background, Nalorn just sees like a guy constantly parallel parking. He's like, what a weirdo.
What's he doing in that bay? That's loading only.
A parking ticket. What is he thinking?
Yes, let me go.
Obviously.
Let me go stalk this victim of a sexual predator. This is clearly the best possible.
Classic Reed.
Thanks, Gaia. Classic enterprise.
Surveil.
Don't be creepy.
Surveil. That's much different.
Before we let her go, and I don't want to belabor the point, but could we ask her just like one quick question to get her take on the other scientist, Jezen, or however you say her name?
So the instant LAN experience, because you are communicating this through LANX, there is like she sparks into life almost as if like she's even more inspired by Jezen than she were by Kortar. It's like, oh, Dr. Jezen, like, I mean, she's not easy to like for most people, but that's just her way. Like, if you really sit down and talk to her about her science and about her theories, she's really just an incredible inspiration. Like, as a female scientist myself, I was really looking forward to working to her, and then I was assigned to Dr. Kortar. That would have been more ideal if I was able to work with...
Who assigned her to work with Kortar?
Maklet would have done. Because he would have been in charge of that kind of resource allocation. And Nalorn lets you know that the official reason that she wasn't assigned to Jezen was because Jezen wasn't allocated enough of a budget to be worthwhile having a grad student. But knowing what you do about Kortar, and like Nalorn sort of lets you intimates it's possible that Kortar manipulated things so that he would have a female grad student to take advantage of.
Aww.
Jezen.
Yep, bring in Jezen.
Yeah. So with that sort of dismissal, Nalorn seems a little bit like surprised. She figured this would go on a lot longer, but she seems like relatively relieved to being cleared. But before she leaves, she sort of like, before I go, I imagine this is probably going to be of absolutely no help to you, but I am obviously a scientist myself in this field, and though I'm not as acutely skilled as Dr. Jessen or Dr. Kortar, I have been thinking about possible ways that someone could have sabotaged the Taurus and survived. The only way I can imagine that anyone in that lab could have survived the hypergravity would be through a neutral buoyancy tank containing a dense oxygenated fluid, like the kind that deep sea divers use to withstand the pressure of the deep ocean. And then she works herself into a bit of a fever like this, and then she deflates. But I suppose nobody could have erected such a tank in the lab without being noticed, or disassembled it and dried it off before Jessen arrived. You know what this is? I shouldn't have mentioned this.
Except someone with a transporter. Aha!
It's hidden inside the big thing.
Ah.
No.
Ooh. Yeah, could we... could such an equipment maybe be stored behind a bulkhead or something in the lab? Or...
In it?
I'm just calling my Uber for Reed.
Our scans would have detected
That's true, yes.
heavy water behind the panel in the lab.
Yeah, the amount of water that she's talking about, especially deeply oxygenated water like that, would have been picked up in a scan. She is working off of Cal Murray assumptions of how to survive a gravity field like this.
Vacuum? It doesn't have to be water, but it has to be something that can keep you isolated. Would a vacuum do the same thing?
It's more about surviving the hypergravity more than a vacuum, really. But that's she is just a junior scientist who is attempting to help out. That's what her understanding of it is, because obviously the Cal Murray's understanding of gravity science is so much less accomplished than Starfleet's or the Vulcan Science Academies.
But Mr. R. Kelly's would be obviously more advanced, so he would have the means and the know-how to perform such a thing. And then it's about how he did it.
If he did it.
Did Lee have full access to the facilities at the duck blind?
Yes, he would have had complete access.
The duck blind.
And that includes the transporter, right? Because they needed to get supplies in and out.
Yeah, they would have had a cargo transport, which is like Enterprise Zero, so not cleared for biological human transport.
Yeah.
But
would they have, similar to Insurrection, the fake kind of, wouldn't be holographic because obviously that's far too advanced, but they have some sort of fake cover or any kind of camouflaging technology?
The way that they would have established this duck blind would have been sort of like beaming in a mining team surreptitiously to create a hollowed out structure and sort of like integrating that into the landscape rather than a holographic one like this.
I think we need to go and talk to the team again.
Yeah.
Well,
and just before she leaves, just before Nilon leaves, she's like, I suppose the only other option is anti-gravity, but we aren't anywhere near inventing that. It's still a theory.
We can do it.
At the moment, it's still in the course of academic theories and papers, none of which have been published yet. But
so anti-gravity, anti-gravity.
I think that's just called gravity.
Just gravity.
You just get into it. Yeah.
Can she join our team as an NPC?
She's got all the answers.
Miss Exposition, please join us.
Oh, please, call me Many. My father Basil was named it. Second Austin Powers joke in the evening.
All right, now, if I can explain myself here before I get called a perv as well. My thoughts for having her followed are, Maclet already knows we're on to him, and we're pressing him pretty hard. He's not going to lead us anywhere or do anything dumb, now that he knows we have eyes on him. But Nilorn was handled with kid gloves. Maybe she thinks she's under the radar. Plus, the fact, even if she's innocent, that she's just given us two big clues may mean that someone else could come after her if they find out that she's been aiding the investigation. Mm-hmm. So I think either way she should probably be followed. But I'm just the pilot.
Especially if we shout out whilst the others are listening. Thank you for all your help. Those ideas are really interesting. just as she's walking out the door. And then following her might well provide some useful
Amazing.
intel. I wouldn't suggest that. Or would I?
Sorry.
Should we talk to Jezen? Should we finish up here and then talk to Jezen and get that going?
All right, fair enough. Let's go with that then. So in which case, Nulon sort of leaves, and I'm guessing, Reed is. Are you going to start tailing her now, or are you going to give
Sure,
her?
I'll put on the disguise.
That's the most versatile
Is he
prop of the
shrunk?
whole show.
Oh no, he's driving surreptitiously. I see.
I see.
Oh, that physical description of the action is just so
A movie,
intense.
Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
I'm really aiming my performance here towards the audio-only listeners.
Yes.
of this podcast.
Yes, we're waiting for the podcast listeners.
Yeah.
By the way,
He ducked down behind his wheel and set off slowly behind the scientist. He thought, "How the hell did I get here?"
the
I could
automatic
have been part of the Royal Navy.
the automatic brightness on Shai's camera is the MVP of the episode so far. By the way,
It's pretty impressive so far, I have to say.
Good value for money on that one. All right. So yeah, Lanix is happy to bring in Dr. Jezen as the last subject. If you guys are ready. All right.
as ready as we'll ever be.
All right. So Dr. Jezen is sort of like a relatively lean, white-furred camera, so somewhat elderly, but still pretty healthy and like animated in her movements. So she has like a bit of a spring in her step. And she sort of she holds herself in a bit of high regard, but she has a degree of humor to herself. Lanix like opens the door for her when she approaches the interrogation room. She's like, "Oh, I'm not that old. You don't have to worry about that. I'm more than capable of sitting myself down, young woman."
She did it.
Lanix just
lock her up.
And Lanix is sort of like a little bit charmed by her and like invites her to sit down. But your idle polygraph picks up that she's
when you say she's charmed by her, is there any essence of attraction? Because she did turn down Travis Mayweather, so
no attraction. Just purely sort of like you're a woman working in a mostly male-dominated field. I respect that as someone who is in a police work of her own.
She's only Calmiri.
That's so much classier than where I tried to go with that. So thank you, Stars.
Yeah. No, it's rare I'll take the high road, but in this respect I will do. So Jezen sort of sits herself down. She makes herself comfortable. It takes her a little while to do so, because she's a little elderly. And then she's sort of sitting there, and she's not smiling because this is obviously an important thing. But she's open and she's willing to talk. You get the impression that she doesn't get to talk to people very often. Probably because she is no longer the star attraction of this research institute.
So we have a few angles: embezzlement, impropriety, or just sticking to the scientific facts of the matter. Any ideas where we should go?
I think we could probably get her talking if we ask her about the experiment. It's probably the thing she's most passionate about.
Oh yes, ask her about her plate.
So the moment Lanix brings up her plate, her face does fall a little bit. She's been holding herself in pretty high regard, like trying to put on a brave face, but she sort of sinks a little bit at that. Yes, I imagine you've been catching up on all of the Research Institute gossip. It's a shame what happened. I do think that the experiment still has merit. For someone who used to be the leading academic in the field, it is rather embarrassing to have my plating just shoved aside, leaning against the wall like a leftover shipping pallet. But that being said, I had my chance. I missed it. And Kortar's Taurus did have validity to it. It was going somewhere, I suppose. Not how I would have approached it, but he was clearly a man of ingenuity. He knew what he was doing. Well, he thought we did, and right up until his death. So there's like a moment of silence, and she sort of leans and goes, "I can keep going if you like. I'm very, very passionate about my science."
Was she aware of the Macklin's gambling addiction?
Let's see. Okay. So she sort of like there's a bit of a sly smile on her face at that. And she's like, you've heard about that. Yes, he's not the most discreet, our wonderful director. He's a wonderful bureaucrat and all that entails, both the good and the bad. Yes, I was aware. There wasn't exactly much I could do about it, considering the fact that the last time I brought up such matters, I had my funding cut by 30%, but there you are. The most I could do was try and be there for the poor girl. Though not in any official capacity, obviously.
She's saying last time she brought up the harassment?
Yeah, she was basically trying to tell Cortar on the hey, knock it off, and then that got back to Macklet, and Macklet cut her funding because, hey, this is the golden goose. Don't rock the boat here. This is our best shot. And don't remind me that the reason why I'm riding on him is because you failed. That sort of angle.
How much did she go on, Tucker?
We have the scientist here. Idle's right. We should also be chasing Lee. Naloran gave us two pieces of scientific evidence. One, anti-grav, and two, the sort of personal hyperbaric chamber. I want to ask Jezen what she thinks about either of those two ideas' viability, given their understanding, technical understanding.
Okay. Let's see.
Because she's much more seasoned than Naloran. Maybe she has a greater understanding than Naloran realizes.
So she sort of picked, you've been talking to Naloran, I see. Look, the girl is incredibly intellectually talented, but I think maybe a little bit trying to save the situation, as it were. I think she's overthinking things. I think, as an older individual, not just as a scientist, but as a person, I think personally that Imran may have sabotaged the Taurus in order to murder Cortar. I think he wanted to go down in history as the one responsible for perfecting artificial gravity, and he didn't want to share the glory. He was that kind of young, arrogant, upstart scientist. I see them come through the Institute every year through the graduations. And I think that in that youth and that arrogance, he miscalculated, believed he would be able to escape in time, but the scientific facts of the matter were that he was at the console, miscalculated, tried to run, and then he paid the price. This idea of a hyperbaric chamber, I mean, it's possibly scientific feasible, but I don't see any evidence of it in the lab.
Mrs. Jezen, if you were to put yourself in Imran's place, and if you were to put yourself in Imran's place and desire to sabotage Cortar, how would you do so while making sure that you remain in relative safety and not go down the way that Imran did?
You asked me to put myself in the mind of a criminal. Not something I can do off the top of my head, but I suppose I'll give it a shot.
Just the scientific facts of the matter.
Just the scientific facts of the matter, huh? I suppose the easiest and simplest way to do it would just be simply to sabotage the failsafe and set the Taurus to continually ramp up the gravimetric field until it was unsustainable, and when they went to reach failsafe, it would be impossible to operate, and you would have to hope he was smart enough to time it, but if that was how I was going to do it, that's how I would have done it. Speaking hypothetically, of course, I didn't do it.
How would Imran be able to ensure his being able to leave the room before the gravity implosion occurred? Is it a matter of just walking out the door, or?
Well, I suppose that would have been captured by the keycard system and the CCTV, but It's the only way I can think of. Like, keep in mind, obviously, this is not my personal experiment. I'm not privy to all the details. Gortar made sure of that. I'm more of an advocate for the gravity plating idea myself. That's my personal project. But I suppose it would be feasible to set up some kind of feedback loop in the gravimetric field stabilizer and make sure that it's kept on feeding on itself, becoming more powerful. And if you were a talented enough scientist, you could feasibly set it to a sort of overload that would result in a gravimetric explosion. But obviously, if that was what he attempted to do, he didn't do it very well. And to be quite frank with you, he didn't get his job by merit. I suspect anyway, that he got it by blackmailing the director. It's the only way that someone so young and inexperienced could have gotten such a prominent post at the Institute. Okay. 5,000 students compete for that position. It's no coincidence, I don't think.
Do you have any idea what material he would have blackmailed him with?
Gambling debts, I imagine. It's no secret around the Institute. No one likes to talk about it because it's rather embarrassing for the Institute. We are a publicly funded institution. If it were to get out, it would cause considerable embarrassment. I suppose we're lucky that all the furore over the accident hasn't led some snooping journalists to start digging further.
I don't know where to go with this, really.
Yeah, I have a question for her.
Mm.
She says she's embarrassed that the gravity plating is just sitting there in the lab, almost like a trophy of her failure. But I would like to ask her about what Meklet said, that she guilted him to keep the plating in the lab. He wanted to dismantle it.
So you want to ask specifically why it wasn't disassembled?
I want to ask her about in her statement.
Sorry, you dropped out a little bit there.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So you want to ask her version of the...
You said that you were embarrassed to have your experiment shoved aside in the lab.
Hmm.
But when we talked to Dr. Meklet, he actually told us that you guilted him to keep the plating in the lab. He wanted to dismantle it.
So she seems, her ear twitches a little bit at that. She says, well, look, it's embarrassing to have your life's work thrown to the side. Like, in my mind, all I need is a few, well, I say a few, probably 100,000 more credits, and then we can probably get it working. A working prototype is achievable. I believe so. And I wanted it in the lab. That's where all the gravimetric instruments are. They are kept. They are the best specialized lab in all the continent. I just wish it had been treated with a bit more respect and shoved over in the corner.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Was that amount of funding reasonable?
I think so, but then again, I suppose Director Maclet would tell you that I am not exactly an unbiased source in that respect.
How does it compare to the funding for the Taurus?
Roughly the same, I suppose. It's especially to try and get a gravimetric field of that size with plating, especially if you were trying to construct some kind of starship, it would take a considerable investment. But if we are to make these leaps and bounds, we have to have imagination, we have to have hope, and we have to believe that it will come true, not simply throw our money at the minds who shout the loudest. We have to have the minds that think the best. But I'm not a financial mind. I am, of course, a scientific one. I suppose Maclet would tell you, and probably the rest of the directors at the Institute, that I'm simply being obstreperous and proud and refusing to see that I'm past my prime. That's all words you'll see on my performance reports. It's rather embarrassing to have my career end in this way, but it is.
Did this gravity plate function at all? I mean, was it intermittently function, or did you not get it yet to work compliantly?
So she sort of like perks up at that. She's very interested that someone is giving her this forum to speak. So I did have it working for a moment. Just for a moment. It was uncontrollable. It shorted out half a city block of power with the amount that it would take to sustain it, but for 0.3 picoseconds I had complete control. And then there was a small explosion, and these things happen. Yeah. But
I'd like to ask the question, or I'd like to have the question asked, and I'd be very direct about it. Like, I think it kind of sounds like something Shran should ask, and just burst
Send in
Shran.
Shran.
Send in Shran. I'd like Shran to go in and burst in and ask, "Were you in the lab that night?" Implicating that she was the fourth person. I'd like to do the polygraph scan while he's asking that.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
okay.
It's thinking about all these questions where it's like, it's just science. It's like, all right.
Yeah, we need to spice this up.
I want some guilt.
We need some action.
we just had her admit that her prototype is capable of altering gravity within a X block radius. Certainly, that could either affect the field.
To clarify, that was the amount of power it was drawing. It was only working in a small controlled environment for a few picoseconds, so tiny amount of time.
But maybe that's enough time.
What if so it draws immense power, say enough power to drain the failsafe in that moment and cause the implosion to happen? Is it possible it was an accident? The implosion itself.
You'd have the kind of wiring of that plating to the failsafe in that respect. That's not something that would have been done by accident. That plating is not meant to be connected. It's a disused, out of service experiment at the moment. So if it were connected to the torus and power, there would have to be a reason. Someone would have to do that intentionally.
If it were to be connected somewhere in the Institute, would that not draw power from, say, other areas of experiment like the torus?
Only if it was being like shoveled in that area, because obviously it's a case of they can direct the flow of power how they wish. It is a controlled environment.
Okay.
Send in Shran. Rattle some cake.
All right,
yeah,
so
I'm happy to go.
Burst in on this old woman.
Yeah.
So what's the aim of attack here?
You know what went down there, because you were there at the time. There was a fourth person in the room, I maintain. It was you. You were there. You caused something to happen, and your appliances allowed you to escape. What say you of this?
So she seems a little bit surprised, but she sort of goes, "Are you all right?"
No, I'm not. I don't say that.
All right, young man, it's okay. We're trying to get to the bottom of this. It's a rather complicated scientific situation we're in, but don't worry, young man. I'm sure whoever relative died in this situation.
Have you seen our captain? We're not big on investigations like this.
we jump to conclusions.
We love it. We love jumping to conclusions. All
Tell her R. Kelly was your brother. Try to engender some sympathy, you know.
Do you want to go with that, Shran?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear what Reed said. R. Kelly was your brother? Oh, my brother.
Yeah, that's why you're so worked up, you know.
Okay. I don't do
talking.
espionage. I do interrogations. Yeah, I can go for that and try and pretend that. Yeah. Look, I'm just emotionally connected to this. R. Kelly was my whatever the name is for a sibling on this planet, and it means a lot to me to find out what happened.
All right, and you want to run a polygraph at the same time for this, Phlox, yeah?
I mean, it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster here, so she's going to have to react in one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. So give me a medicine plus insight difficulty 4.
Oh, you. When Phlox attempts a task to coordinate... Oh, no, hang on. Learn about an unfamiliar culture and act in an appropriate manner when interacting with members of such culture. He reduces difficulty by 1.
How are you attempting to learn about an unfamiliar culture?
They're dogs?
You're attempting to learn about the motives of an individual, not culture.
Oh, god damn it.
I've mentioned siblings, and that sibling culture is a very important one to understand.
The grief over familial death is completely foreign to us, so we need to understand how they...
Yeah, so, okay, fair. You know what? That's fair. I'll allow that. So you'll reduce difficulty by 1, yeah?
Well, okay,
That was so close.
as the big Klingon fan, they only treat them as husks to be discarded, so they wouldn't engender maybe so much grief, especially Worf, who's very stoic. So we have to learn about how these people react to.
Okay, yeah. Don't belabor the point.
I know, you already
you,
said
don't worry,
it.
buddy.
You won already. Stop, man.
Can you reduce difficulty by 5 if I talk you into it?
Roll for momentum. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Should I buy a dice for this, or should I just get someone to help me and hope for the best?
What's difficult?
Can I help by
Maybe 3
telegraphing through the mirror to say... Now's when I'm going to...
No.
Well, no, actually,
No,
no.
this is
Shran,
a
you already
roll
are assisting.
polygraph.
Shran is already assisting me because he's providing the question that I've asked.
I'm
him to
doing the
ask.
thing.
So that's the assist. Go on, go on. You
I'm gonna say no for this one because the only reason you're getting the door open, but you are not assisting holding it open. You have the option to. You have this one shot. It's a difficulty 3. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Dude, Jezen's totally the bad guy, by the way. I think we've established that.
I'm down
So
with
Paul
that as
assisted last time.
Yeah, do it again.
I'll allow to Paul
Alright,
to
alright.
assist. Yes.
What we're doing?
Okay.
Medicine and reason, did you say?
Yes.
Okay, I'm rolling. I got a 1 and a 20.
Wow.
Oh.
Let's
So
cancel
I
each
got
other
2
out.
successes
wow.
and a complication.
Okay. So
I
it's
got
a lot
one
to
success.
Paul. Okay, so you do succeed, but with a complication. So your point of attack is she was inside the lab on that day, yeah?
She's the 4th man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She smiles and says, well, yes, it's a matter of public record that I was inside the lab before the test.
Oh?
I was working with the others to prepare the experiment, explaining the recent traces of my DNA that were found in the lab.
Hold on. Describe this.
What?
Sorry.
Our question was whether she's the 4th person inside the Taurus, right?
Yeah.
Well, not inside the Taurus.
You were there when the
but-
accident happened.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, no,
Well-
there were only 3 people then in there.
No, there's DNA from a 4th.
There is?
No, so the DNA inside the wreckage is of 3 people, Lee and the 2 dead people, yeah?
Okay.
But Phlox's forensic reconstruction using DNA traces around the lab established that there was a 4th person. That's a separate thing.
Around.
Sorry,
oh,
it is a bit of a grey area there.
Wait. 4th person in the lab or in the room where the implosion happened?
In the lab.
Okay.
Oh, well, wait, but there were multiple. There were like 6 people in the lab.
Last thing that would have been inside the lab recently enough to leave a DNA trace that is like measurable after a gravity explosion.
Yeah, but she works
Okay.
there, so that doesn't really tell us anything.
Right.
Okay.
All right, describe this smile. Because if I were being interrogated for murder, I wouldn't be very smiley.
She is a little bit rattled. The fact that Shran is going at it, and also she seems like she's trying to be sympathetic to this man that is in her face. But it is a little bit of a strained smile, just because like you're unsure whether or not she's trying to comfort Shran or if she's maybe trying to hide something.
She's hiding.
Suspect number 1 right here.
So we would have her baseline as well, yes? The whole grief
I'd say so.
counseling thing, the whole...
Yeah.
If she was present recent enough, she would have been person of interest.
Yeah. Oh, incidentally, and also to your question, Lyle, yes, the polygraph established that she is telling the truth. She was in the lab before the Taurus test. But
Can we do the voodoo tricorder magic and get some more emotive words from her, like the disgust anger thing?
yeah, you know what? I'll have to be a separate role though, because you were trying to establish the truth, not an emotional state.
Okay.
So give me I'll reduce the difficulty here, and I will not allow cultural flexibility to apply, because it's not about anyone's brother at this time. Sky, you look like you have something to say?
No.
No, okay.
Would the accuracy
So this-
of this be increased if the scan was taken at closer range?
I'm going to say that with 22nd century technology, like you're about within optimal range, because it's only a separation of maybe about a meter
I'm
or
gonna go
3.
right
Like
up
it's
her
not.
nose.
I was thinking maybe we could slip Spocky a tricorder or something and you know.
All right. Give me a. What is that again? Medicine plus insight was what it was.
Okay.
Difficulty 2.
All right. I'm just gonna roll on this. I'm just gonna see what happens.
Okay.
What am I aiming for? Medicine insight. That's
2.
11 plus 16. I got a 12 and a 13. So yeah, I have 2 passes.
Okay. So her sort of general emotional state is she is a little bit rattled. There is a degree of fear here, although to be fair, Shran is right in her face. There's a degree of anxiety. There is... How would I describe it? There's a degree of, like, grief as well. But it's curiously impersonal grief. Like, it doesn't seem like it's directed about a person, maybe more about a thing. It almost as if something is gnawing away at her, and it has been for a long time, but you can't be quite sure what that is. You'll also pick up from her bioscans that she is legitimately quite ill. It's nothing terminal, but it is a case of she is elderly and she is dealing with a few conflicting health conditions, which... If you're going to ask, that is her reason for why she left the lab before the Taurus test, is that she had to deal with some, to put it lightly, a medical issue.
Mayweather to read. Anything from following Nilorn? What is she up to?
Nothing yet, sir. I don't know. What do I see?
Give me... Give me... This should be an Insight Security difficulty 1.
He's our eye in the sky. Reporter in the field.
An insight of 8, so 12. And I rolled... Oof. I rolled a 7 and a 20.
Okay. So I'm gonna say that in your attempts to tail Nilorn, you basically she goes to the supermarket, she picks up some food, she stops off at a phone booth for a moment to call someone and seems to have a long conversation with someone over the phone where she was a little bit teary. You then proceed to rear-end her car.
As you do.
And ruin your cover. Because now you're going to have to deal
Oh, wait a second. Would she recognize
the
him?
Lord? Fancy you here.
I would say that she would have probably passed him on the way to the in the peace link, because you guys were coming in while she was leaving.
All right.
And she's just sort of like standing there, like caught between this emotion of what the fuck are you doing here versus are you okay? You look like you're were you driving with like ill-fitting glasses? Like what the? Is that your prescription, sir?
I'm just. These aren't my glasses. Anyway.
All right.
Now, a pretty woman is talking to you. Give me a control plus command difficulty 5.
Star's been sitting on that joke for a while. All right. I have a question. In the U.S., I don't know if it's still active. It used to be a decade or two ago. If you go to a payphone and punch in *69, it will redial the last call, whatever the last call is made. Does this planet have a *69, and can he go back and check who was on the other end of that phone call?
Yes. He will have to disentangle himself from both Nilorn and the insurance investigators.
So she was making a call, you're saying, on a On a
phone booth, a public phone booth. Yeah.
Oh, so not her personal.
No. So you're going to have to give me 2 rolls here. You're going to have to give me. What will this be? Give me a reason and command difficulty to extricate yourself from Nalorn and the car insurance investigators.
Okay.
I say use momentum. I'll gotta find out who she's talking to.
Add a die here of momentum.
Yeah, absolutely.
So. Or you can use threat to buy a dice as well.
She's pointing at you with like a packet of Oreos in one hand and a packet of Jaffa Cakes in the other. Like, why are you following me?
I'm a researcher for a biscuit company.
Corporate espionage into gravity experiments from the company.
Hold on, are these meat flavored? Are these meat flavored Jaffa Cakes? Since we're all dogs, no.
Where? Don't dogs eat fruit too?
What happened, Shai?
I believe I have 2 successes. A 6, 4, and a 17.
Okay, yeah, you succeeded. Let's see, did you have... Yeah, you went on that. Okay, so you managed to educate yourself with a mild degree of complaining and harassment. It does help that you are a Starfleet trained tactical officer, so you can escape 3 annoyed civilians. I hope.
I think we're down to 1 momentum idle, by the way.
Oh, well, okay.
Because he just used one to buy a dice.
Yeah, and in order to work a payphone,
sleeping on foot. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you've rear-ended your car.
So I was like, well, what happened was, and then I
just... You threw your glasses at them and ran.
Look over there.
But I circle back to the payphone to.
Yes, and you're going to give me a engineering check in order to work this payphone. Give me a reason plus engineering difficulty 2.
13.
I say buy another dice.
Yeah, I'm buying this last. Using this last point.
We can't fail now.
Oh.
Actually,
What?
This should normally be a difficulty 2, but because I have something in mind, I'm gonna spend 3 threat.
Okay.
I'm gonna spend 3 threat and increase it to a difficulty 5.
But can I not buy extra momentum then?
No, you can, but I'm gonna spend the threat to increase the difficulty.
Wait, do you have any telephone-related talents?
Yeah.
Or focuses.
Espionage?
First of all, you know what? My focus in extravehicular activity. Now that I'm out of the car.
Yeah.
All right.
Brilliant.
No, espionage should be able to give me a.
Maybe you should spend some determination too to work a payphone.
God.
Wait, hold on. If you're only rolling 2 dice, even if you crit both, you wouldn't pass a 5 difficulty. So what's going on here? Either like you buy dice and use values, or we just admit defeat because Stars is an evil GM.
I haven't spent a single threat this entire session.
My value of, adapt, improvise, and overcome.
Okay.
Clearly applies in this situation.
2 successes. There you go.
In fact, you know what? I'll make you a count out. So, if you don't want to do this, I'll allow you to succeed at cost, which means you automatically succeed, but you take a complication. Would you prefer that to a difficulty 5 roll and spending all these resources? Would you prefer that?
Oh, I'll take the complication. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll give us our momentum.
So, in which case,
Dude,
you get your momentum back, and your determination is safe and sound where it is. Yes, I do like your reasoning on the extravehicular activity, though. And Reed is staring at this phone booth. And you're like, oh, what is this? It's kind of like a communicator, but it appears to be some kind of, almost like a transporter device. Do I step inside and I'm transported to where I want to talk to? I don't know. And you dial, And you bring the receiver up to your ear. It's like, welcome to Calmiri's hottest babes. We're here for you.
Son of a bitch.
Oh, the fur you can handle.
Not just fur balls here, honey.
Oh my god.
All the tail you can handle.
Why?
This phone booth is worse than Al Capone's vault. Like, this is awful.
Yeah, go on. No, go on. I paid for this. I want the full call.
I'm getting my 60 seconds worth, damn it.
All right. I wanted that so badly. I'm happy. So you redial, and this will be what we end on because I think you'll like this. The number that dials through, and you bring up your scanner here to kind of trace the signal, and it appears to route back to the observation post.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Dun dun dun.
Which she should not know about, correct?
No.
Yeah.
All right,
She
post-play
was a dog
discussion. Post-play discussion.
God.
You can find that on our Patreon feed, yeah.
My gut instinct is that somehow either Lee confided in Lorne or she got wind of where he came from, and they were communicating covertly, and he gave her his home number, which not a smart move. But I'm just going to read Star's face and see what he gives me from my theories.
I think there's something up with Jezen. I think there's too much motive with Jezen, like just dripping in it. Like with the stuff with like Macklin. Okay, he's got gambling addiction and he's sort of gone, been blackmailed by a young inspired graduate who wants to make his way in. I think that's all incidental. I think that there is something deeper going on with the actual experiment. And we haven't asked Jezen what her relationship with Lee. No one's asked who's spoken to R. Kelly. Who has interacted. We've sort of been dealing with this sort of little side play. We haven't asked the direct questions like, how do you get on with Lee? What's the motive there? So I think we've
been following the juicy stuff though.
Yeah.
The drama.
Literally chasing her around town.
So what's my complication then?
That was your complication, was you accidentally dialed a dirty phone number.
Oh, that was the complication?
Complication.
Dude, we had to listen to Stars do like a furry impression, so that was as bad as it gets.
He made a furry testicles reference. It wasn't good.
I'm so happy.
Exactly.
So the way these people died, gravity implosion, Macklet being the bureaucrat makes him kind of by default least likely to have pulled this off. So unless there was a co-conspirator or something, I'm kind of not feeling Macklet.
I don't.
Sorry, go.
Well, yeah, I don't like him for it either because his motive is unrelated to the experiment, and his livelihood is connected to the experiment. So if you wanted to bump somebody off, do it another way. Don't mess with your business.
Yeah. I think, we're looking at, someone's jury-rigged the fail-safe. They've corrupted the experiment. They would have to have intimate knowledge of the experiment. I think all of this is pointing to Jezen. I think there's no one else that is alive that, unless Imran, it was an accident, like you say, and it was Imran that cocked it up. But I don't know. I feel that's too convenient.
All right, so Nalorn somehow has knowledge of are they humans? Well, humans and Vulcans?
Human and Vulcan observation team, yeah.
She has some kind of knowledge. And you said that she was on the phone crying. So she was speaking to someone currently alive at the observation post who knew each other well enough to confide in them about something emotional. So is it Lee hiding behind a bulkhead at the duck blind? Don't wait for the translation. Answer me now.
Read my face. What does my face say to you?
It says
That
find
you're
out
enjoying
next
this?
time on our Star Trek Adventure stream.
Same time, same SDA channel.
Where we'll spend 3 hours talking to 4 people.
Yeah,
We can stretch it if you want.
I have more notes. You didn't ask them all the questions. That's fine.
Oh no. Yeah.
Okay. We'll confer after this, and we'll get a next day where we shall hopefully wrap up this investigation and find out the true motives of Lee and all the other characters. See what's going on. But thank you all for joining us. It was a longer one than we thought we were going to do, but no, that was fun. This is good. Thank you, Stars, for GMing. Your descriptions
Yay.
and your guiding us are immaculate. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes, and yes, as Evans of Wales says, congratulations, Shy, for your excellent driving.
Thank you.
See how many more road vehicles we can take.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for being as excellent as you are. I am so lucky to have you. I'm so glad we're doing this again.
Yes. We will not wait as long next time. We will not. It is
No,
not Christmas.
not so long.
It is not Christmas.
Not
and
so
I
long.
want to remember everything this time. So, yes. Join us on Wednesday when we will be back with more Timelines Talks, The Return, and a few surprises along the way. We will see you then at the normal time. But from everyone here, ta-ra. Toodaloo.
Happy New Year, everyone.
And happy.
Oh, happy New Year.